I had to go downstairs to the other store to get their password for the Wi-Fi. That's what I was a couple of
Oh,
late
right.
there, yeah.
Oh,
And,
right. Okay. Yeah.
now it's the other bakery instead of the other store because they had a little change in motif, and, when you're in the other bakery, you can't avoid you gotta get something, so,
Oh,
I
yeah.
got
Well,
a coffee cake here
That's
and
why I'm too hard. It makes
oh, well, yeah. Yeah.
elegant.
If only you could put one on as an attachment.
yeah, exactly.
Rough, I haven't seen you since 1983, the very earliest.
Yeah, no, not by,
When I
before
left
that,
town,
because, yeah, well, I was gone before then because I went to Australia in 81. And
81.
yeah,
Oh,
I
yeah.
was only,
Actually,
I was
but I
only
believe he was up at your house.
23 and I set off for Australia and, um, never really, well, I've been back a couple times, but not, not
Say
really.
you said you remember Jackie and Missy.
Yeah, I do. I didn't know them well because they were much younger than me.
Yeah, quite a bit. Yeah.
But I remember because they would catch the school bus, and I would see them then. And
Oh, right. And then Jack Walker.
so that's more or less how I knew them. And then because I would go past your house, I would see
Yeah.
them out playing
Of course.
because they were,
Yeah.
yeah, and so I knew them that way. But gosh, it's fun. Can you imagine? I mean, I remember going past your house all those years ago. Can you
Yeah.
believe that we are talking face to face?
From England,
You're in Tamworth, I'm in England,
no.
and
I,
it's I must say I've really enjoyed the conversations that I've heard and
on our ride around.
it yeah, because it really took me back. I mean, because I mean, I came from my mother's funeral, and I was only in Tamworth for a day, and that was in 2001, 2001. The last time I've been, and that was only for a day. Before that, it was 98 when my mother was ill. And then before that, it was 1981. And
Wow. And
um,
Ruff, when you came here in
so
2001,
I mean,
were you coming from the
to
other
hear
side?
you talk about these. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, to hear you talk about these names and places, it brought back so many memories. And I enjoyed, John, your when you were talking about when you were a kid going up Chicago to pick blueberries.
Oh, yeah.
That
That.
I mean, because I lived at we lived at the base of the trail. I mean, I used to literally 1 month I went up every single day, 1 August. Every day I went
You
up.
outdid me. I
But
think I did.
I was
35.
listening. I reckon I'm
Wow.
sure I've done 100 because I was doing it since I was 7, and we would always go up. I mean, because we were right there, and so we would
Yeah,
go up
right there.
probably
It's on a-
at least 5 or 6 times every summer.
But I lived
And
there. And I didn't hike
yeah,
it.
yeah, it's funny to and again when you were talking about when you were a kid fishing and catching your limit of 15 up in Wanalancet.
Oh, man.
I mean, the limit was 10 when I was a kid. But
It was. It was
our
15 when I
memories are
was-
so
when
similar.
I started fishing, it was 15.
Listening to you talk about the mountain and picking berries and going fishing, you and I
Yeah.
would have been great friends if we'd been born around the same time. We'd have been hanging out together quite a bit because I was doing the
Yeah.
same things, riding my
About the same
bicycle, going
thing.
fishing, picking berries. Yeah. And but yeah, it brought back a lot of memories. And
When we
yeah,
get together, we
it,
don't shut our mouths until we separate.
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, yeah, and just so many names from the past. I don't know if you knew that my great aunt Alice was Alice Bickford, Chet Bickford's wife.
Well, sure. In fact,
Yeah,
also just
that was
lived in
my
a
great aunt Alice.
house.
Oh, really?
Mhm.
Elsa is the
and
person that runs the other bakery. And so she moved into the cottage right next to.
Right next to Jet Bickford's place.
yeah, oh, because
I was
that
Roff,
cottage
Roff, when I was a
was
little
built.
kid. When I was a
That
little
little
kid,
cottage was built for my great grandmother. She
yeah.
lived there.
Wow.
Chet,
Chet Bickford built it for his mother-in-law, my great grandmother.
Chet Bickford was a house painter. He and my grandfather were great friends.
Oh yeah,
Chet
yeah,
Bickford made a toboggan for me out of ski.
yep.
He was an artisan. He wasn't just a
Oh
house.
yeah.
He was a great at making things. You don't
Well,
remember Chet, do you?
I do. I have the vaguest memories because he had a stroke when he
Yeah.
was, um, and I remember I have vague memories of being there, and I remember my Aunt Alice, his wife, quite well. But I only because he died in like '63, so I was about 5. But I do remember meeting him because we brought him a box of chocolates, and he passed them around, and he was obviously not well. But when I was born, he made me a little wagon, a little wooden wagon, and a little set of blocks, little wooden blocks. And I treasured those when I was little. I mean, they were like so special. So yeah, I have memories. I mean, of the things he made, and I remember meeting him that quite well. Um, and then my grandmother had a brother as well named Ted, who was Ted was trouble, and he married Margaret Cummings, 1922.
Margaret Cummings.
Yeah,
But
and
yeah,
she later was Waddy Remick's wife.
yes, she was a sister of Waddy Remick.
Yeah.
And she was a twin brother. She was a twin to Elmer Cummings.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Because yeah,
So
because my great uncle was her first husband, but he was no good, really bad, and he just disappeared one day, and no one ever found out what happened to him.
This was before either one of our times.
Oh yeah, long
Yeah,
before. Yeah, this
yeah.
was back in the 20s.
I know Margaret well. She used to have the little. She had the other store.
Yeah, and because we used to go up
Oh,
there and visit
Margaret
her.
when I was a kid.
Yeah, when I was little, we would go up there, and we knew her as Aunt Margaret, although she wasn't technically an aunt, but because she'd been married to my great uncle briefly, um, we called her Aunt Margaret. I remember her, and yeah,
Oh,
it's these names go, you know, and my of course my mother's cousin was Peg Tripp at the grocery store.
yeah.
Um, and yeah, so
Sure.
yeah, that was she was our
And
aunt
Betty
Aunt Peg.
there was also Betty. Was Betty
Oh
and
yes, Betty Goodson.
Betty Goodson. She was a wonderful violin player.
Was she really? I didn't know that.
Grandmother taught her. My grandmother
I
was
didn't know.
a teacher.
Oh, I didn't know that.
She taught half the town how to play musical instruments.
Uh, you know, now that you mention, I remember she did teach me. I didn't know she was a good violin player. I had no idea.
Oh yeah, Betty was excellent, excellent.
Oh gosh, I didn't. I meant to tell you, I have laughed so hard at that story you told about Charlie Hammond getting away with the ball and chain and sending it back.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that has got to be I mean, the cheekiest. I mean, you got to have balls to do that. I mean, really.
Yeah. Charlie and my father, John Senior, were best.
I remember your father.
Yeah, they were.
Oh, you remember
friends.
John's dad? Yeah.
Oh yeah, because I mean, I remember because I went deer hunting with Danny Wasson.
Oh yeah.
And your father was there.
Oh yeah.
And he was a real nice guy. I liked your father.
Everybody loved him. Everybody loved him.
He was a real gentleman.
The only enemies he had was fish and game.
Well, I mean, to be honest, I would have had those enemies too. I never got caught.
Anyway, let me tell you about that ball and chain. I was in jail way back in 1963 for jacking deer, of all things. I was for 90 days. Well, the sheriff and I became friends when I was there. I was the only one there for 6 weeks, so he used to have me come into his office, and there was that ball and chain up on the wall with a story about it. Charlie Hammond right under it.
Oh my gosh, that is priceless.
Back
I
in
mean-
those days, they had a sheriff, a deputy sheriff with a shotgun. And all the guys who were working out in the fields had a ball and chain. Charlie got next to the room and he picked up the chain, the hell with it, and took off with it. But what really tickled me is he took the son of a bitch all the way to California and then sent
Then
it
mailed it.
DOD.
I mean, that is so cheeky. I mean,
Postage too. Yeah.
Imagine
oh,
that.
I mean,
And they had to get out and pay for it. They had ball and chain.
I mean, yeah, that. I mean, the Hammonds were quite quite a bunch.
I know. I went
mean,
to all of them.
Yeah, I mean, I knew Mary Floyd quite well.
Yeah.
I was
Mary-
friends. I mean, she was a difficult woman to say the least. But when
But
she
you-
wasn't drinking,
Mary Floyd. Mary Floyd.
Oh,
Mary
Mary.
Floyd,
Yeah. Very least. Because you
Yeah.
had better experiences with her than I did.
I didn't. I was friends with her. I would go over and because she could be. I mean, when she wasn't drunk, or you
Yeah.
know, she could be really interesting. She had some great stories.
Yeah.
And I used to go and talk to her, and I would mow her lawn and shovel her snow for her. And it was so funny when she was in the hospital. She died in 1980, but in 78 or 79, she was almost dead. I mean, she was not expected to live. But I had a little fox terrier that had a personality just like Mary's. I mean, really. And Mary loved that dog. So when she was in the hospital down in Wolfboro, I would drive down with the dog, and there was a fire exit, and there was and I would go up the fire escape and figure, and I worked the lock on it and got into the ward without seeing anybody, carrying the dog, and bring the dog into Mary, who was in an oxygen tent, and she loved that. And she would be having I mean, it really lifted her spirits. I mean, I think that's actually what got her through that first time. But was she? The nurses hated her. She was demanding. She wanted my mother to bring her a cowbell so she could ring it because they weren't answering her buzzer.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And then she was in an oxygen tent and she wanted to smoke. She wanted her cigarettes. They're like, no, Mary, you're in an oxygen tent. You can't. Yeah, and she was she was funny, but then my dog would come in, and I got caught with the dog once, and I had this. It was in the summer, and I had this long winter parka. So I could put the dog under it. It's this hot day, and I had the dog under the parka, and I'm walking out to go back down the fire escape, and this nurse walks up to me, and she's looking at me in this big winter parka. It's like 90 degrees outside, and at this point, my dog, the fox terrier, sticks its head up like this, right in the nurse's face, and the nurse said, she started yelling at me. You can't bring a dog in here. And first I said, what dog? And the dog, she said, you've got a dog in there. And I said, it's my seeing eye dog. And then the nurse said, that's a terrier. And I went, oh my God, I brought the wrong dog. And at that point, they threw me out of the. I mean, they just marched me out of the hospital, and I was like on a no-fly list for like.
What the hell was you going to say? I brought the wrong dog. What are you going to say?
Yeah, it was brilliant, but Mary loved it, and Mary loved hearing about it too. But then she I think Tamworth I think growing up in Tamworth in those days, you just turned out that way, I mean, you were going to be cheeky. I remember you said that when they came to pick you up for jacking deer, you smarted off and it went from 30 days to 90 straight away.
Yeah. Yeah, well, the judge came out and gave my lawyer hell. And he said, pointing at me. My lawyer had him kicked off the bench for prejudice, all right? So he's pointing at me. A game warden's there, my lawyer's there, God knows how many others at the steps sitting down to me. He says, this man has knocked up half the girls in this town. And my lawyer goes like this. He said, boy, you were a busy bastard. I was the one. Half the women in the southeast.
Yeah, those.
Right. Oh
God,
yeah.
those are fun. Yeah, I remember the game warden in my era. It was a guy named Forrest Perkins.
Well,
And
he's my deadly enemy.
yeah, he wasn't. He was no friend of mine either.
I got him good. I got him good. I
Oh,
got him
really?
out here. Well, here's the best one you'll ever hear.
Oh, I want to hear it.
I lost my license for 5 years. I was living in Laconia, but we'd go to Whiteface, Innervale, and go up
Yeah.
to, in the area of Flat Mountain Pond, on the side of the ridges of Whiteface. I shot a couple of days, and the first day we got through it, but somebody tagged it, and I couldn't tag it. So next day, I'd go out. I'd get in the trunk of my buddy's car with my rifle, all the way up to here. And I'm like, so anyway, so we go down. We go. We're driving along, and he said, "Oh shit, the game warden." I said, "I've had it this time." But I'm back anyway, and I'm sweating, man, because he gets me. He's gonna, man, I got him good this time. But my buddy got the yapping with him, and he checked his license. He says, "You don't have a tag. You already tagged up." I said, "Yeah, but I saw a bear up there yesterday. I was after him." Well,
That's a good one.
I'm
Yeah.
in the truck sweating marbles, and then shit. And finally, because there were 4 cars in a row, he had to check them all. He let him go. He never looked in the trunk. They always look in the trunk.
Yeah. Oh, they would.
But that's not the best part of it. I had a good friend of mine, one of my best friends, my hunting buddy over in Laconia. But it's no different. Lawrence Perkins' son worked with this guy at Bald Peak Country Club. I said, I want you to tell him the story and tell him to tell his father. He did. He went home. He told his father, "You really screwed up. You had John Hidden Red Hand, and you never looked in the trunk." He told him the whole story. He said he's never so damn mad in all his life.
Well, he almost got me for. I mean, I had way too many fish. Okay, and he saw me, and there was, but yeah, I was in Paugus Brook, the one behind our house that went down to the wooden bridge at the end of Fowler's Mill Road. Yep. Well, I was going along there, and all of a sudden I look up, I see this guy in green, and I'm thinking, wait a second. And he turns around, I see a gold badge. I'm like, oh shit. And he's got me dead to rights. I turned and ran, just ran like hell. And he chased me. But do you remember there were those beaver ponds back behind there? Yeah, there were beaver ponds back behind on the other side of the brook from our house. There was a big mess of beaver ponds.
Okay, now I got that.
And I knew my way through those ponds. I mean, there was a tangle of just a mess, but I knew how to get through there.
Yeah.
And I went straight for those ponds and lost him.
Wow.
I love, no, he didn't, no, he didn't get my face. I'm sorry. He didn't, he almost knew. He stopped by our house. He did stop by our house, and my mother covered for me. She said, "Well, I don't know. No, he's been climbing Chicago today, and and he didn't grab me, and he and my mother gave me an alibi. I'm 4 miles away up in the rocks."
Again.
And I just love to think of him wandering around in that, because he would have got muddy up to his thighs in that stuff if you don't know where you're going. You're going to get wet and muddy and
very well.
I just
my house. Big.
Oh yes, that's right. You did. Yeah, there was. Yeah, and those are good places for deer too.
Yeah, and
beaver ponds, great places, and moose.
Moose are very good eating.
Yep.
Take it from one who knows.
Oh, they are. I know.
Yeah.
Yes.
Got a big cow one time. Yep. Cow. I wouldn't shoot a bull anyway.
Really?
About 600. Got him home, dragged him in the hind quarters for like this. We ate moose meat all winter long. Yeah, I was cutting.
Well,
cutting them in half. My wife was wrapping it up. We did this for 3 hours. They filled the freezer full of moose meat.
Well, but that's the thing, though. Yeah, but and that's the thing. People did that, but they did it to eat. People did it for
Yeah, it wasn't
food. It
selling
was
it.
yeah.
Right,
It wasn't
Yeah.
like I'm just gonna go have fun shooting a moose. You did it for
right.
food. And
That was
I mean,
kids.
yeah, I mean, Chet Bickford, I know, I mean, I remember someone because he was jacking deer big time. And I
No,
remember,
not
I think
that.
it was I remember I think I was talking to Harry Thompson. He was the guy I picked
Oh,
strawberries
Harry.
for.
Yeah, that's a good man.
Harry. Yeah, he was a good man. But I
Yeah,
remember mentioning my uncle Chester, and Harry Thompson. He had a very dry sense of humor.
yeah.
And he said, "Oh, Chet Bickford, he was a really good hunter all year round."
Oh, you're right back. All year round. What the hell? He lived right at the base of the backside of Great Hill. That's
Yeah,
out in the Carroll County, right back in his house.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, no, he was quite a man, Harry Thompson. I worked for him. My first job was picking strawberries, and the rate was just the same that you got for raspberries. This was
10 cents a quart.
1971, 71, 72, whatever like that.
Yep.
And
I
10
was
cents a
with
quart. And then if they liked you, they would they moved us up to 12 cents a quart. But Harry Thompson's wife, she Harry was a really easygoing guy. She was
Yeah.
she was she was a hard case, and she would
Yeah.
go through every strawberry, and if she found the least little bit of a white or green, you didn't get any credit for the whole quart.
I didn't know about that.
Oh yeah. So you might pick 15 quarts and get credit for 10. And
Yeah.
and then, but then of course they'd have the other strawberries to make up other,
Right.
they were, yeah. But Harry was really good. I learned a lot about the woods from Harry. I mean,
Harry
you know,
Harry was auxiliary game warden. He wasn't a game warden.
no, but
Auxiliary, and he
yeah,
knew
he was.
the mountain better than anybody in the world.
Oh,
Time it was against the law to shoot a fisher cat. Well,
yes.
I was up there on the mountain. I saw a fisher cat peeking at me between the crotch, right between the eyes. So I didn't hurt it any. I said, "I'm going to take that to him." See what he said. So he said, John, he knew me. He knew my father well. He said, "That's against the law." I said, "So I heard," or something like that. And he said, "I'll give you $5 for it." $5 for the damn thing. That 19
Yeah,
free. $5 is like 25 now.
yeah. I mean, it was worth it.
Yeah.
But
Like that. Don't tell me he says against the law, John. He said, "I'll give you $5 for it." Almost the
yeah,
same.
Yeah.
What am I going to do with it? Naturally, he's going to take advantage of it. He probably to him it was probably worth 25. The hide. Fisher cat hide is worth.
well, he would have got some. He would have got some because he had buyers. I mean, he was a trapper, and he knew how to sell furs and
yeah,
how to who to sell to and all that. And
I'll never forget how he did it. All in just one statement. It's against the law, John. I'll give you $5.
yeah,
You let me.
yeah, those are amazing, really.
Really, yeah.
And I thought it was interesting when you mentioned that. I mean, because I knew the Walkers very, very well.
Yeah.
Myrtle, and my best friend was Jack Walker. I don't know whatever happened to him. He kind of, I don't know, kind of slid out of sight. I think he had some problems, but he and I used to go around.
John and Sandra and I.
Oh yeah, because they were your age.
There were 10 kids raised in that little shack.
I know. Yeah, I mean, I knew some of them. I mean, I met Sandra and John, but they were your age. But I knew Robert, Jack, Steve. Yeah. I knew Johnny. Barbara a little bit, but yeah. And then there was the others like Dickie and Jimmy, and I think Dickie and Jimmy are both dead now.
No, I saw Jimmy just a little while ago.
Oh right, okay.
Jimmy and Dickie never get them straightened out.
I know. I know one of them died.
Well, I don't know.
Dickie.
Yeah,
Dick. But I lost track of them. I mean, I knew Myrtle quite well, and she was a nice lady.
Yeah, what a rabbit hunter. We're both rabbit hunters. And
Yeah, she
we
was.
always comparing notes every time we see each other. How many you got so far this year, Mildred?
Well, she was good. She was good at it. I mean, she.
I got you beat. No, you have not. We'd go at each other like we did the enemy. We just rabbit hunters. That's all.
Well, she taught me how to shoot, Myrtle.
Oh, she
And
did.
yeah,
Couldn't
yeah,
have got a better. You could have got a better.
I
teacher.
know. I know. Well, you know, a funny story about Jack, her son Jack. You know, he went in the Marines briefly, and that didn't work out, shall we say? But when he was because you know he'd grown up, you know, he'd been taught by his mother to shoot, and when they were at boot camp, he was the top scorer of his platoon quite easily. But
right.
This was Jack.
Yeah.
But one of the things, one of the people in his platoon was a terrible shot and was likely to fail. And Jack managed to get next to the guy when they were shooting for their final scores. And for some reason, Jack Walker, the top scorer of the platoon, completely missed his target on one of his shots. And the guy next to him, who was about to fail, somehow managed to get a bullseye and passed.
Awesome.
And to the Marines, I mean, it didn't fool the drill sergeant. They knew, but they thought that makes a good Marine.
Yeah.
And they passed them both. And Jack got promoted, but then Jack had lots of problems, and it all went pear-shaped.
I just remember him walking up by the house. He'd walk up and drop him off the school bus way down.
Yep.
Down by
Well, he and I used to do that together. We used to walk from the old post office, you know, where the Dick Stearns was the postmaster and all that.
Tamworth, yeah,
down Tamworth, and because oh no, they would drop us because we have we were going to school in Conway High School, and then they would drop us off there, and then there'd be a minibus, or Franny Hammond was one of the drivers, or later it was Brett Chase, and they would drive us Model Lancet kids. And Jack and I just one spring we just walked every day, and we had a best old time. We just we went the old Mail Road or the River Road, and we just horsed around in the brook, whatever. It was good. It was fun, but yeah, we got our exercise.
Yeah, I mean, that's like walking through a national park.
Well, it was, and there wasn't much traffic then.
Walk down the Tamworth to the post office.
Yeah, walk from Tamworth to down to and we just did that, and it was it was fun. But I mean, that's why I mean Jack never was into going up the mountain like I was. I mean, he could be a little bit lazy, and I love to go up the mountain. So I mean, literally 1 August, 31 days in a row, I did the mountain, up the Liberty, down the brook, and
I guarantee you that's never been matched, Roff. There's no way I guarantee you no one has ever matched that achievement.
I don't think so. I mean, but then it was so easy. We just walk out the step, and there it was. And and we used to have a thing. I went up for the first time when I was 7. I was so excited, and because we had that house in the field, when we get to the top, we'd bring a mirror, and we'd signal my mother that we got to the top, and then she'd take the bathroom mirror out, and they'd signal back. Wow. And so they knew we were all right, and we'd made the summit, and then we'd have our cheese and mustard sandwich or whatever it was, something cheap, and pick some berries, and then head back down again.
I do that with flashlight. I've done that flashlight so many times.
Yeah,
at night. Yeah.
Oh, I've never been up at night. I've never done night.
I want to tell you one. I know you'll appreciate this one because you know the
doctor. I'm sure I love your story.
Anybody alive? All right. A friend of mine, we're rummaging around in his father's garage up on Page Hill, and we found a box of those flares, the kind you stick in the ground.
Oh yeah.
Bright red flare. I said, let's.
The road flares.
Let's take those up to Chicago. So I think there's about 30 of them. So we had our packs, and we took a meal up with us, and we hiked up with those flares. And then it was probably an hour before dark. We started putting them around all around the top of the peak. There's 30 of them. We got the, you couldn't stick them in the ground. No ground to stick them into. You put them in
No,
little
no, it
crevices.
cracks in the rocks and stuff.
And just as it get dark, we walked around. We lit every one of them. It was a beautiful sight. And my
I'll bet it would.
gosh, I'd like to see what it's like from down there. Because I always but the next day, my father was a little bit suspicious. He said, "John, I got a call from Earl Remick last night." Earl Remick was a fire warden, forest fire warden. He said, he called, he said, "John, the whole damn Wallace Chicoro Mountain is on fire." And the whole peak, he said, is on fire. And my father said, "Well, don't worry about it, Earl. There's nothing up there that will burn." And you don't know that.
Just granite.
Burn, rock. Go to bed. But I'm telling you, well, that place is on fire. He said, I finally hung up on. He said, "I know somebody's playing a joke on somebody." He said, "I thought of you." I was 19. Oh, anyway, all right, don't say now, that slipped me, but anyway, I'm just trying to picture what he saw. Can you imagine with 35 of those places, they showed up.
It would have been spectacular. That would have been spectacular.
It looked like it was on fire. I mean, that's gotta be an amazing sight.
I never climbed it at night. That's something I never did.
Oh, I love
that. Would have been interesting. I bet the stuff. Oh, that would have been brilliant. Those are things I wished I'd done.
Oh.
Having listened to your stories the other day, I found myself reminiscing in my, we used to, one of my favorite things to, I wished I'd done it now more, but I used to ride my bicycle over to Whittier, Whittier, and then follow the Bear Camp River down Route 25 to the old sawmill. There was this brilliant fishing hole behind the sawmill where the water came down from a dam, an old dam from, I think, South Tamworth Industries or something like that.
Yeah. All right. Now I know what you mean. I thought you fished down the river. You fished up the river.
Upstream. I'm sorry. I said, upstream.
All right. Yes. I know exactly
and there was a water, it came off the dam and it swirled into this big, deep pool. And it was, I mean, for me, because I'm used to just fishing for brook trout, but you toss a line in that pool, you could get anything. I mean, there was bass, there was pickerel, there was brown trout, rainbow trout, suckers, horn pout, and it was this really deep pool. It was like my own private black lagoon. It was. I would toss a line out there, and you'd see it sinking, and you'd kind of go, I mean, anything could be down there. It was. I was so brilliant. I just I think that's what doing stuff like that made me want to travel and see the world, because it was like my own mini adventure. I felt like I'd been to the Amazon, and it was like, I want to do this for real someday.
That really reminds me of something. John knows about this. You were a photographer for National Geographic.
Yes.
You're a lot younger, but my cousin was a woman all her life. She was a photographer for National Geographic.
What was her name?
Her name when she began was Sylvia Roberts. Then she got married, and I can't remember if I ever knew what her married name was. I saw her once, and she had a little camp right on just above the bridge on Paul's Mill Road. She had a camp up there in the woods, and I
know where the camp is. Yeah, I know what camp you mean.
Yeah, but that's all I know about. I know that she was
cool.
Geographic. It was Sylvia Roberts.
I'm sure I've seen her work. I've been working for them for 30 years.
Yeah.
And I write and take photos, and it's been quite nice. I've gotten to travel all over the world. Haven't made much money.
I saw her.
But
that's about 40 years ago. The last time I saw her.
Yeah.
So, she'd been at it for quite a while then.
Yeah.
You were a kid when she was doing it. I just wondered. Women do.
Oh yeah, there are some. Yeah, there's some. I know that I've met there's a woman named Jody Cobb, whom I've met. She's much older than me. But they had some really good women photographers, and they could go places that men often couldn't. Because in the Middle East, one of them shot a big series on the harems, and you're not going to get a male photographer he's never going to be allowed to go in the harem in Saudi
No.
Arabia. But they, I mean, they had some pretty, it's been an interesting life. I've been able to go, I mean, I've been to the South Pole, I've been to Zanzibar, Borneo, the Congo, I mean, all these places I used to daydream about, sitting on the porch at Sunnycrest, and I actually got to do it. I never made any money because it was I mean, I got to go places. I sort of made this trade. I decided that I was either going to, have a career and do well, or just have an exciting life and not do well. And I just decided to have an exciting life, and that's why I'm living on a canal boat now. I don't own a
Life
car.
is doing well.
Yeah,
It's
well,
like the story. You may have heard the story, Rob, about the guy. He goes to visit a little Italian fishing village, and he sees
yeah,
the fishermen going out in the morning, and they come back around noontime, and they put their catch away, and then they're in the town square drinking coffee, and they're playing with the
yeah,
children, running around. And the tourist comes into town. He says, "Oh, this is great, but why do you come back at noon? Why don't you stay out until 5 o'clock and you get more
yeah,
fish?" He says, "Well, why would I do that?" Well, because if you catch more fish, then
yeah,
you could buy a bigger boat. Well, why would I want a bigger boat? Well, then you could get even more, and then you could get a fleet of boats. Well, what am I going to do then? Well, then after like 20 years, you could sell your fleeter boats. And what am
yeah.
I going to
No.
do at that point? Well, then with all your money, you could find a nice little Italian fishing village where you could sit in the
Yeah,
square.
yeah, exactly. I mean, that's kind of what I did. I mean, I don't own a car, I don't own a TV, I don't own anything like that. But I do own my boat,
The
and
boat is so cool. How did you come to the narrow boating and to getting your own boat and starting that adventure?
well, I'd always kind of wanted to do, and suddenly I realized I was in my 60s, and I thought, okay, I keep saying I'm going to do this someday. And I thought to myself, well, wait a second, when is someday going to happen? You
Yeah,
know, I'm either going to do it or I'm not. And I
right.
had bought a little bit of land in Australia, rural land, not, but it was worth some money, more than I thought it was. So I sold that and bought my boat, and I've been living on the water now for almost 2 years, and I love it. You know, it's a 58-foot narrowboat, and the operative word is narrow. I mean, my boat is on the outside is 6 foot 10 inches wide. The canals here were all made in the 18th century, really narrow locks, and the one I'm on now, the canal I'm on now, is built in 1770, and the locks are these old stone locks with big oak doors, and it's all manual. It's hard work moving the boat around,
Yeah.
but it's beautiful. I mean, I can send you some pictures of where I am if you. I'd be
Oh,
happy
that'd
to
be
send you them.
fantastic. Yeah, really.
And yeah, it's. In fact, I've taken some shots of where I'm moored actually at this moment, so I'll send those to you, and
Beautiful.
you can have a look, and yeah, show John, please, so you can see what it's very pretty here. It's different. I'm in what they call mountains over here, but they're not like the White Mountains. They're
Hey,
nowhere near
Rob,
as wild.
Well, like hills, maybe, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Rob,
They're
Rob,
hills.
how did you and this one here, how did you meet up? How did you guys hook up? You can tell me.
Well, that was kind of funny. I wrote a book. I've written a couple of books, but I was interviewed about this book about bicycle rides all over the world, and I'd mentioned that I grew up in a little town in New Hampshire that
Oh, yeah.
probably no one ever heard of, and turns
Oh,
out he
yeah.
had heard of it.
Yeah.
How
And
long
he,
was this?
Oh, that was maybe 6 months ago, right, Rob?
oh,
Yeah.
6, 7 months ago, yeah.
Yeah.
And you've been in touch, and I think it was longer ago than that, actually. Now I think the
Maybe.
time's
Yeah.
been going by,
Yeah.
and so we've started corresponding. And then he mentioned that he knew you, and I think he said something like, oh, did you know Johnny Hidden? I'm like, yeah. I mean, he was a neighbor. Yeah, of course. you know, he lived just down the house and walked past his house every day. Yeah, And well, and I had forgotten, but you did help unload those boxes
Yeah.
in the movie. I had
You were there.
forgotten that.
You were there. You see,
Yeah, yeah,
I finally got to figure out why I don't remember you that well. You see, I was 30 when you were 15. And
yeah,
that's the difference, so you don't pay
yeah.
much attention. Well, he's a kid. I mean, I was
Well, and
nothing.
again,
I just don't remember you being there. That's all. But
well,
you
that's the thing. I mean,
were or
No,
not.
but you remember
yeah,
you remember you told me at the time that there were these two boys.
Yeah, there were two
Yeah.
boys.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I mean, and I remember you, but again, I'm 14. I was 14 at the time,
Right.
and actually, I wasn't quite 14. I was still 13. I was 14. It was in June of '72 that we
You were
moved
a
up.
little kid. In my mind, you were a
Yeah.
little kid. You were
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. But
teenage.
again, and you're a guy you're a grown up. So I mean, they all go in their own little bin. I mean,
You'll
there's
get
kids
along
and then
in
there's
touch.
grown ups. And you weren't as old as my grandparents, because grandparents are a separate category. But there's this sort of kid, grown up grandparents, and you were a grown up. So I mean, I remember you, and as we walked past your house, I do remember you helping to unload the truck,
Right.
but you were quite you. But I heard you say you were
He
quite
gave me
right.
$10 to do that.
Yeah, yeah.
$10. But the hell,
Yeah.
I was there for an hour. That was big money back then. Most guys
Well,
are
I'm
working.
glad I'm glad she paid you well. I really am. But but you were quite right, because the house was. I mean, my family goes back in Tamworth for quite a ways, but we'd been in Chicago where my father was a lawyer,
Oh, yeah.
and and he came to a very sticky end, and that's why we kind of had to get out of town and go back to New Hampshire. I mean,
From Chicago to Tamworth when you were 13, you were coming from Chicago? Oh, okay.
yeah, we had
I
we
had
had
it in
to.
my head you were in Hawaii or something.
No, my mother went to Hawaii. She lived there. My mother was an adventurer. I mean, my grandfather was not impressed, her father and mother, but because yeah, she ran off to Hawaii, and she was a hula dancer for a while. She was a model, and she had quite a, but she never. I only know the bare bones of her story. She never gave much detail, so I don't know much. But then my father, she married.
I'll forget it if I don't ask you. Who owns that house now?
Yeah,
Oh,
well, it was not a happy story.
oh,
Uh, yeah, yeah, he owns it. And it what happened was, my mother was not happy about me moving overseas, and I came back from Australia very briefly after I did a bicycle ride, and then I was heading back overseas again. And up to that point, the house was always meant to have gone to me. It was meant to have, and whatever any other assets would go to my brother. But because I love that house, I love the house, I love the mountain, love the brook,
Yeah.
and
Right.
that was what. And I went overseas again, and my mother just completely. My mother liked to play with her will, if you know what I mean. She liked to change her will every other week,
oh boy.
and I fell out of favor. And then she had an aneurysm, burst in her brain within about a week of her changing the will. And my brother, he was always very unhappy about being the youngest. He was unhappy that he wasn't the only son. He did not want me around. And so I came back to stay in Sunnycrest while my mother was ill in 1998. And I was there for a few weeks, but he had power of attorney because he was also the executor, had power of attorney. So he basically threw me out of the house, threatened to call the sheriff if I didn't leave the house. And so I left, and I've never really been back. We didn't speak for about 15 years. And then he approached me and said he was all very sorry about all that. And I didn't want to fight. So I went back and I said, well, look, and he said, look, we'll do something with the house and blah, blah, blah. But then I realized it was all bullshit. It was just, so he owns it. He's let it go. It's uninhabitable. No, he can't. I mean, it's fallen apart. He's actually bought. I mean, he's quite rich. My brother he flies corporate jets for billionaires. He's paid obscene money. I mean, really obscene money. And he owns land in Florida. He's bought land in Ossipee, but he just lets that house sit, and he knows it's because I wanted it.
Nice big house, but it's going to deteriorate to dust the way it is now.
He never goes, stays there, Ralph?
He goes up every couple of years and looks at it. But no, he's never lived in it. No one has lived in it since my mother was struck ill in 98. It's been abandoned for 27 years. And it makes me, I mean, I try not to think about it because, I mean, that's why I don't ever go back to New Hampshire, because I couldn't bear to see it. I mean, I really couldn't bear it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I will never, I mean, so I've really treasured hearing your stories, John, because it brought so much back to me in a really positive way.
Yeah.
And, again, like you say, we were from different generations, but hearing your stories when you were a kid, the world didn't change that much between when you were a kid and when I was a kid.
That's amazing.
And, hearing your stories
was so similar to yours. The things he would do, hunting, the fishing.
I mean, we did the same. I mean, that's what I was thinking. Had I been born in 1940, I think you and I would have been great mates. Actually,
Yeah.
I think we would have been. I think we. I mean, because we were up to the same stuff. I mean, run from the game warden, fish all you like.
I ended up in jail.
Yeah, well,
deer, too many deer.
Well, that will happen.
That was a good experience. So I actually had a good 90 days.
Well, it sounded like you. I mean, you had some good stories out of it.
For the sheriff of the place. Oh yeah, you see this guy? That's my father.
Yeah, I reckon. Yes.
Looks like he's got his hunting dog with him there, the beagle, right?
Yeah. Boy, I mean, that takes me. I mean, I'm just talking to you now. I mean, do you remember like they used to have those trap shoots over on Huckins Barn and
Huckins Barn. It's all grown up now. I walked up a couple of years ago and you can't even find it hardly.
Oh God! Because remember how that was so much fun. I mean, you'd go there. I remember I had a double barrel 20 gauge, and
that's what I had. That's what I did all my hunting with. I mean, rabbit hunting.
It's a great gun.
Yeah.
But I remember walking up there with Jack Walker, Robert Walker, and myself. We only had the one gun, my gun, and we share it, but and you go there, and it was really beautiful because all the fall colors were out. It was in late September around then, and all the colors are out, and you can hear everyone shooting the shotguns, and there were some really good shots there.
Everybody would come out.
I want you to look at this picture again. Just look at that. Look at that shotgun.
That's what made me think of it.
It is. That's a 20 gauge shotgun.
That's pretty much exactly what I had.
I don't remember what the make was. I think
I don't remember either, but it was a good one. But that's a good weapon. A 20 gauge is a great weapon. It's light enough, but that was.
I mean, you paint that story, Roff, to paint that picture. I could see it in my head. I mean, I'm seeing it in my mind's eye. Fall, the colors, the crisp air. You're out there.
Yeah.
You got your gun. You hear other guns.
We walked all the way there. We're carrying the gun. We walked all the way from the Walker's place up to Huckins Barn, and we walked all the way home. And we had a great time. And there was people who did reloading. They would sell shells out of the back of a station wagon, and you could buy like 5 shells for $1 or something, and that would get you through one round. And we had it was great. I hadn't thought of that until I saw that picture of your father with a double barrel. I'd even forgotten I'd owned it, but those were good times.
That from me that morning.
Really?
That made you by any chance remember the pictures remember the Carroll County Independent?
Yeah.
They had a thing called "This is Carroll County" every week.
Bruce Bedford. Bruce Bedford.
That's it. And he took that picture, and that was the picture of the week. This is Carroll County.
Because he used to do some good pictures of Carroll County. I understand someone, was it you told me that he burned someplace down?
Oh, yeah, a few.
A few, really?
He was seen running from 3 quite famous fires. Yeah,
Was that including the one over there in Ferncroft?
yeah, Ferncross. The guy on there was oh boy, Ferncross. He was seen running from that.
Was that still there, Roff, when you were a kid? The Ferncroft Inn, whatever it was up there, the big
It
hotel.
wasn't an inn, but I celebrated one of my birthdays there. I think
Oh, okay.
it was either Verncroft or Edge Hill. I don't remember which.
Oh, well,
When I was very little, I
Okay.
celebrated one of my birthdays there.
well, this burned in the late '60s, early '70s.
Oh, that would have, yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew who Bruce Bedford was. I didn't know he was a firebug.
Oh, yeah, he was a firebug. Yeah,
But his wife used to work at the diner over in Indian Mounds, Marge and Dick Paulson, and she used to be a waitress there.
Bolton. Yeah,
Because they had it's called Marge's Place over in Indian Mounds.
Indian Mound. My
Yeah.
brain walked up. Indian Mound. Why
That was over by the IGA in West Ossipee, in Ossipee, or West Ossipee. You go past Whittier, down towards Ossipee, and then there was a golf course, and you turn off, and there was a little
Oh,
shopping
yeah.
center that had an IGA and an Aubuchon
Indian
Hardware.
Mound. Yes, of course. All right, and
Yeah.
it came because of the
Yep.
Indian Mound, the graveyard. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was
Indian
called
Mounds.
Indian Mounds. And then they had a laundromat, which is we used to go there to do the laundry. And we'd stop and have something at Marge's. It was called Marge's Diner or Marge's Place. And
Huh.
we got to know them. And Bruce Bedford's wife used to work there. I don't remember her name, but she worked there. And that's why we would see him come in.
But they tried to stay away from him. You know, he didn't really make friends because everybody found out.
No. He
you don't
seemed a
make
bit,
friends
I
with
mean, he seemed a bit odd. I remember as a kid, you pick up on these things and you think that guy's not right. You know?
No.
Well,
Yeah.
speaking about diners,
Yeah.
what about when you said your dad had that building that became Rosie's?
Oh, yeah, right.
I wonder if that would have been a diner when Roff was in town.
I don't know. My father built this place right on 25, halfway between Chicago and West Ossipee, just before you get to the White Lake entrance. He started out
Oh.
as a Point-O-Matic laundry,
Yes, and didn't it become the Mountaineer?
and then it became the Mountaineer.
Yeah, I
Right.
remember that.
And then he turned it into a takeout windows where you could buy ice cream, you could buy stuff at the window,
Yeah.
fried clams, stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
That was late '60s. He did that, and then while I was gone down to Connecticut, he sold it to a girl named Rosie. I remember when she was in school when I was a custodian. Rosie.
This was in the 80s.
Mhm.
Was that in the 80s?
In the
This
80s,
was in the
she had it for a long time. She just barely got rid of it. It'll always have the name Rosie. It's quite famous now. That place is always packed. We go to
Well, actually, I remember the Mountaineer, and I do remember because my mother used to go to Rosie's. I remember the name, and then I remember what was the Twin Maples that was down on 25 as you go towards Ossipee, and there was another one too, a little restaurant that we used to go to.
Twin
It was the
Maples.
Twin Maples, and then there was one that was just a bit further down. I can't think of the name. Oh, it's funny I've forgotten so many of these places. It's
The Mountaineer,
and then the
I'm trying to
golden
remember that. Yeah,
the golden goose that was over by Whittier's, by Jimmy Elliott's garage. There was the golden
Golden
goose.
Goose? Remember Golden Goose?
Oh God, yeah, that was my third cousin, Gordon Perkins. Yeah,
That's right. Yeah,
Why the hell he named it the Golden Goose? I never figured out.
that was an odd one.
It's an apartment building now.
Is it really?
It's built into apartments,
Oh
and they've
gosh.
got one of those storage places where you go pay so much a month to store stuff.
Oh right. Oh yeah.
Used to have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God,
We
it was.
moved to an area, John, and if you remember it, Roff, when we were doing our drive around, John and I, we came past old Di Filippe's. I don't know if Di Filippi was here when you were there.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
My mother mentioned him quite a bit. Yeah.
Go to buy
Okay.
tomato plants up on the white face flats.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because she used to buy stuff from him, I think.
okay, yeah.
And then so we came because that was kind of we came from Ferncroft down. We came past DeFilippi,
Yeah.
and then we ended up making a right turn and going up
Oh,
into
yeah,
the
the white
mountains
face,
there.
Intervale.
Intervale.
Yeah.
Yeah, did you ever go hang around those areas, Roff?
I knew the area because I used to do some. I mean, I climbed all the mountains. I mean, Passaconaway,
Flat
Whiteface.
Mountain Pond? Did you ever go up Flat
Yes,
Mountain Pond?
yes, I do remember.
Yeah.
I made a little expedition there
Getting
once.
up is right on that road. What's
Oh,
that
right.
road called?
Mm.
What's that called? I don't remember, but yeah, but that was really beautiful up
Yeah,
there. I
yeah.
thought that was quite
Flat
nice.
Mountain Pond, you can drive in there probably less than a mile and there's a road. And it goes to Flat Mountain Pond. It's about 4 miles up there. And then you keep going and going and going and come down to a place called Lang Ambrose. Believe it or not, he was a one-arm welder. I was a welder by trade. He did it with one arm, but he had
That's
a
hard.
made.
That's impressive.
He did it. He did more with one arm most men could with two.
Yeah, God.
They live way down the other end of those that road out there.
Oh, wow, gosh.
Flat.
I'd forgotten
They
some of
didn't
these.
put out there when I was a kid.
I just something else. Another memory popped into the Sandwich Fair.
Oh,
Oh,
my
yeah.
Lord!
Oh
I
God, that
haven't
was
been since they made it now a 3-day fair.
that was a 1 day one all the time
Yeah,
I knew
well,
it.
me too. And
And
they're twice as big an area as
oh yeah, it was really fun though. Back in the
yeah, it was.
late '60s, early '70s.
Balloon was 10,
Um,
10 cents. They're probably getting
oh
balloon
oh
around.
yeah. Well, I remember one of the guys in the sideshow. It was Mark Wasson and myself. We were good buddies.
Oh, Marco, yeah.
Yeah.
Candy
Well, we yes. Well, we were something you had to throw a softball through a wooden cat's mouth, and we had I think one of us, I can't remember which one of us, had two of them through, and the third one was going through. So we win a prize. And the guy just throws an elbow up and knocks the ball out of the way. So we thought, right, okay. And then Mark pointed out, those three softballs are worth more than the prize. So we went up, put our 50 cents down. They gave us three softballs. We turned and ran.
Way to go. Way to go.
Yep.
Myself,
Yep.
you.
Yeah. So that was our prize.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
And,
So back in the
yeah, that
day,
was
Roff, what was so if you think about the Sandwich Fairgrounds, and they were kind of right behind the Sandwich post office there, right? Then
yeah,
across,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So across from the Sandwich post office, there's a big long white building. Right now, it's like an artisan gallery for the New Hampshire League of Craftsmen. But what was
Yeah,
that?
okay.
building?
Yeah. I think there was an art gallery there even then. Someone had an art, some kind of, there was a bit of a gallery of some sort there at some point. I don't know what all it was, but I remember, I didn't go in the Sandwich that much. I mean, I rode my bike through there. I remember Denley Emerson, the real estate guy.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
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 He was-
Another crook. How do you know all these
yeah,
crooks?
he was. No, I just, water seeks its own level.
Yeah. I don't believe that.
No, I'm not a crook, but I just sent it. Well, I never did. Well, my father was not strictly on the up and up, shall we say?
Did enough for
And
everybody. Yeah.
what's that?
Well, right across from that building that you said,
Yep.
the gallery building, there's another place that these days it's called the Corner House. It's like a restaurant. And
Oh, yeah, it was the Corner House Inn. Yeah, I remember that was
what?
an inn when I was
Oh, okay.
the Corner House Inn. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or at least it was in the '90s, because I went there when my mother was ill. But yeah, so I don't know what it. Yeah, but yeah,
Yeah,
it was the Corner House Inn goes back a ways. I think it was in the inn for quite a while.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it was terrific. Really good place to go. Really interesting, really unique. And then it got the couple that had it for 30 plus years. They, got tired. It's hard running a restaurant, and
Oh, it is hard work. Yeah.
yeah, it's relentless. So then they retired. They sold it to a crazy lady during COVID from Philadelphia, and it's interesting. She was like a restaurateur, in Philadelphia. And you know how like you go into like these big cities. I mean, you've been all around the world, Roth, but you go into a city like New York or whatever, and there's kind of this weird thing they do, this weird dynamic when you go into a restaurant. They want you to feel, they want to give you the impression that you should feel lucky that they're even speaking to you. Like,
Oh, I know those types.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, that's the
Yeah. Oh, I hate
advice,
that.
right? And that doesn't work
Uh,
with the sandwich, you know? So
no,
she had it for a few
no,
years,
no. Well,
and you know,
no.
everybody quit. And then some guy bought it and he's bringing it back, so it's great. But I'll tell you what is the most hilarious thing about sandwich right now, Roth, is that we
What's
have
that?
our own celebrity. We have our own celebrity in sandwich, right? And
What's that?
of all the people, do you do you remember back in the 70s, there was one of this kind of like I guess you'd call him almost like a heartthrob for the ladies, but his name was John Davidson. And he presented
Yes. Yes. Yes.
fairs and things like that, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Remember
Yeah.
John Davidson?
Yeah. What about it over there?
Yeah. Well, he moved into Sandwich, and
I know that.
behind the other store is no, not behind the corner house. There's kind of
Mhm.
some buildings there. There's like a little play theater kind of thing and everything. It's a really cool little area. Anyway, he bought this home with like a little theater venue, really small, like really small. And
Mm.
he created this performance that he does. It's called Club Sandwich, right? And he does because he's apparently
Oh,
a musician and everything, you know. And
club sandwich. Haha.
yeah, right, exactly. And people absolutely love this guy, right? And you know, he's like, don't make fun of John. That's our John Davidson. You know what I mean? It's kind of like this
Yeah.
town pride around our own personal celebrity. And he is absolutely hilarious. You got to love the guy. He comes into, there's a little coffee shop right at the corner there, kind of like if you had the corner house on this corner and that big gallery on that corner, and then kind of at the center of that triangle on the other side, there's a place that's been a coffee shop forever. And now there's a couple of gals who run it, and it's called Foothills. It's a nice little cafe. Well, John Davidson,
Oh, cool.
he loves to come in there and he fully expects all attention on him and he holds court, you know, like only a proper celebrity. He never lets us down. You know, he kind of comes in with that 1,000-watt smile. You know, he's
Oh
got
God.
hair. It's in the same like long hairstyle they had the guys were wearing in the 70s.
Yeah, in the
Oh,
seven.
right.
Yeah, I remember the. I remember the guy. Yeah.
I remember John Davidson. What the
Oh,
heck?
Yeah, it's really funny.
The
Yeah.
TV show. He was,
Yeah, he was all kind of TV shows and stuff
he
like
wasn't
that.
a singer, was he?
Yeah, he was a singer and a
Singer, yeah.
musician. He did all that. Yeah, yeah.
John Davidson.
But yeah, it's kind of
Well,
funny. Yeah.
John, I was impressed that you knew the psycho killer in Dirty Harry.
Oh, he's my best friend. Yeah, Andy Robinson.
Yeah.
I met
I
him
was
57 up in one Lancet. He had a girlfriend named Louise Barker. I was going with Denny Stems. Something she was, I don't know, off of Walden's. Anyway, Andy and I became close. I taught him how to drive. He almost killed me coming down Reed's Hill. I almost went off the road. I had to grab the wheel. But anyway, yeah, we were good friends for about 3 years. Then he went to UNH and he got in trouble. They got kicked out of UNH. Good thing he did for the rest of the world, as far as I'm concerned, because he got kicked out of there because he was fighting against Vietnam, which was not popular.
All right.
But it turns out he was very right.
No.
Right. Then he went to New York,
Yes.
NYU.
Yeah, NYU. Yeah.
And he studied drama.
Yep.
Well, one day I was watching TV with my wife, and now I wasn't watching TV. My wife, there was a soap opera on. This is first I knew Andy got into acting. You may remember there was a show, a soap opera called Ryan's Hope. Ever hear
Oh, I
of it?
remember hearing that about the name.
Ryan's Hope. He played the part of Frank Ryan. I'm just looking at the book. Christ, there's Andy. My wife said, "Who's Andy?" He never knew him. My wife was 7 years younger than I was. And so we started writing with each other. Next thing I know, he was gone. He had made Dirty Harry at that time, but I didn't know it. I never saw it to begin with. So he was gone, and we were writing back and forth. Somehow I got through to him on ABC, and then got through to him. So he wrote to me. I said, "Andy, what happened? You're gone." He said, the women in this world are crazy. He said they were so that they were so upset that I played a part of Frank Ryan. The thousands of them wrote in. We will not have a psychopathic killer playing a part of Frank Ryan. That's how they take these soap operas to heart. But anyway, he said I do all right. I've seen the 3 or 4 movies he made. But then I saw Dirty Harry. I'll bet I've seen that 10 times since. Have you seen it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've seen it.
It's
Yeah,
a great movie.
it is. Yes.
For best actor, supporting actor.
Yeah.
Yeah, and all that. But what he did such a good job. He even went to Clint Eastwood to ask him, "Can you help me get into something?" He said, "No, you're going to be typecast now forever because of that. We can't help it because people hate." I remember when I saw that movie, I said, "Everybody in America hates Andy Robinson, but me." He played the part.
He did a good. He did a great job. He was very convincing.
Oh, and then he moved here after. You met him when he was.
Well, he was yeah.
Oh, okay.
He was just up here with some. I don't know how he. Oh, he's working at the Edge Hill Inn. The Edge Hill Inn.
Yeah, I know the Edge Hill Inn. Yeah. Well,
He worked there when he was 15.
have you ever seen any of the Rocky movies?
The who?
Rocky.
Oh yeah,
Rocky,
Rocky,
oh my Lord, yeah. Rocky.
Okay,
yeah.
well, all right. I was going to the University of Sydney in the early 1980s, and I was friends with this great big Swedish guy. He and I were great mates. We hung around together. His name was Hans Lundgren. Now, Hans Lundgren was a kickboxing champion. He was a chemical engineering student at the time. And he and I went to see Rocky III together. Neither of us had any idea that in Rocky IV, he was going to be playing Ivan Drago, the huge Russian who kills Apollo Creed and it fights Rock. And yeah, he was a good friend of mine. When we went to Sydney Uni together, and again, like you, I'm sitting there watching Rocky IV. We communicated for a bit. He went off. He married Grace Jones, and was living in the Caribbean. And that was the last I heard from him. Was a postcard from Jamaica. And I'm sitting down to watch Rocky IV. And I see this enormous guy. And I'm like, hang on, wait a second. That's his name is. He goes by the name of Dolph Lundgren now, but that's his stage name. But his real name is Hans. And it was like, like you're looking at the movie, you think, wait a second, I know that guy. And it's weird when that happens.
You said he's Swedish, huh?
Yeah. Yes. And a chemical engineering student. And he and I were really good friends for a couple of years in Sydney. And like I say, we literally went to see Rocky III together.
Yeah.
Neither had any idea that he was, going to end up being in Rocky IV.
Acting or anything. He wasn't doing anything with theater at the time.
No, he got into it because he was huge and a kickboxing championship. He made his money while we were students. I mean, I was making money loading fruit trucks, but that's how I made my money. He got gigs as a bodyguard to visiting celebrities because he had a license for all that, and it was very intimidating, as you can see from the movies. Yeah. And that's how he got involved with Grace Jones. And then Grace Jones was involved with one of the Bond movies, and Hans was involved with that. And that's sort of brought him into this whole sphere. And then he got involved with Sylvester Stallone and the Rocky thing. And the funny thing was, I mean, Hans is big. I mean, he's like 6'6", and it was funny. One day, he came into the dining hall at the University of Sydney, and this woman comes running out to him and says, "You're not allowed to wear football shoulder pads into this dining room." And he goes, "These are my real shoulders." She's like, "Oh, okay."
I think I can get rid of him.
Yeah, but I mean, he's huge. But when they were doing the fight scenes, he actually put Stallone in the hospital in a coma for several days. He didn't mean to, but he
Wow.
landed one. He landed one, and I mean, Hans was intimidating.
It's
It
amazing
was
when you see someone that size,
oh
not only height and muscle that can also move like a kickboxer.
yeah, and he was well. They had a funny thing at the university, at the college I was living at the university, where the newcomers, they would grab them and throw them in a pond as a initiation. Didn't matter who you were. Well,
Yeah.
they would have this one night when there was suddenly everyone was going, and I knew they were coming, and I was new too. So I went and hid. I was under a table somewhere, and nobody ever found me. But Hans was on the telephone duty, so he couldn't go anywhere. Now, one of the guys they had grabbing people to put him in the pond was also on the Australian national rugby team, 6'7" monster. And he was one of the, anyway, they go running up, let's get the receptionist. So they go running up, and they all of a sudden they see who the receptionist is. And this big guy from the Australian rugby team, even he was cowed. He walked up to Hans and said very politely, excuse me, Hans, we have this tradition that we put people in the pond when they're brand new, and you wouldn't care to go in the pond, would you? Hans said, no.
And that was the end of it.
I said, thank you. That's all right. We'll go now. And they ran off to get somebody else. They weren't gonna, even this big monster from the national rugby team wasn't even gonna think about tackling Hans.
Yeah.
But
That's awesome.
that,
It's interesting, like with him, that he was kind of like out of nowhere as an actor. And Stallone, it was the same thing. I remember listening to an interview of him, and he was a poor, starving
he
writer.
wrote a screenplay, and no one would look at it, and he made it happen.
I mean, the smartest thing he ever did, I think they gave him a small amount of money for the screenplay, but he insisted on playing the part. And that was almost a game changer. Like it was like almost like a no start for them, but then he just held firm. And of course, he got a lot more popular as the star than any writer ever has become. Yeah.
That gosh, those are, but I was just thinking of some other, just remembering some of John's stories that from Tamworth. Again, it was really nice hearing your stories, John. It meant a lot to me.
Locked up here. I want to tell you a good one about your friend over here, John.
Okay.
When I met him. We went for a ride. He wanted to go for a ride in the back roads. So I took him up, oh God, all the back roads around here, and you could see he's having a grand time. And anyway, we were gone for 2 or 3 hours just riding back roads. We got back. He said to me, he said, John, he said, I got friends in New York who'd pay $1,000 to see what you showed me today. I said, well, bring them on.
Yeah.
I never give it a thought.
Oh,
this is how I live.
Yeah.
And this man from New York has gone crazy over the damn place. And he still is. Every time we go, he loves to go to these back roads.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because it's a special place. I mean, I've traveled all over the world, and it's the back roads around Tamworth are as pretty and beautiful as you'll find anywhere.
About the same. Not much has happened to it.
Not much. It's so unspoiled. I mean, right there. I mean, going up the Liberty Trail, Roff, and it's
I have such good memories of that. I managed. I made a point of. I went up to Chicago every trail that I knew of, including some that were defunct even then. One called the Skull Cairn Trail, which it joins the Weedamo. Go from near Jane, and pardon me.
The Weedamo Trail.
Because I went up every
Yeah.
But he said
there was a
skunk.
Yeah, I never heard of that one.
Yeah.
Skunk something.
Yeah, it was one that comes from, you go past the road that goes up to James Pond.
Yeah.
And then there was a trail. It's from near what, do you remember that the principal of the Kenneth Brett, Stoneman? Remember, he had that house by. Do you remember
Stoneman.
this
Stoneman, yeah,
Stoneman?
the principal, yeah.
Yeah, it went from near his house and came up and joined the Wiedemo Trail.
Well, I didn't know.
It's called the Skull Cairn. Called the Skull. I only heard about it because there was some person from the AMC, a really old person, that told me about it, and it was really overgrown even then. But I found it and did
Oh,
it.
it wasn't well marked then. It wasn't well used.
No, 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 no. It had been
I never heard of that one.
disused for years. But I found it and managed to do it
I did the
and did
pipe
that.
once. The
Pardon me?
pipe. I did the
Oh, the
pipe.
Piper. I've
It's
done the
all right.
Piper and the Middle Sister Trail and Nickerson Carter Ledge, Champney Falls, Beeline,
Yeah.
Liberty Brook, Wiedemo, the Skull Cairn isn't Hammond Trail, yes. And then
Beeline
I
trail. They were
I
doing the
did
beeline.
the yes, the Beeline.
Chicago.
Yeah. Well, because you could go from Paugus to right up from summit to summit, down the Beeline
Yeah.
on Paugus,
I've done
and
that
then
a
up
couple
the.
of times. Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, to talk to you, I mean, because there's not many people that would know all of these trails like we do.
No.
Because you know,
no.
and taking the Bowles Trail all the way over to the Kankamogus Highway, which I did
Trail.
that in winter a couple of times.
Sure, sure. I've never done it, but I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, I did it on snowshoes in the winter.
One
And
time
it's-
years ago, and I was still
Wow.
living at my home at Powell Mill Road. 4 of these guys come walking down the road from the direction where you live, coming down by, and
Oh,
they were lost.
did they go over the mountain the wrong way?
We came in here from the Kankamogus,
Ah,
and we have no idea where we are. I
well,
said,
you're nowhere near the Kankamogus.
Chipped in for a little bit for gas because and they did. They chipped in got me $10 worth of gas, and I took them up to Conway and back and dropped them off. They would have
Yeah, 'cause
had.
that's a
They thought they were lost forever. They had no
yeah.
idea where they could have been in Australia for all they knew.
Some of the people that went up that mountain were just so silly.
They were gone.
Yeah,
They
but
were
yeah.
bewildered. They had no idea.
And do you remember the old sawdust pile at Paugus Mill?
Oh yeah, sure. My
Yes,
God, yeah.
that was nice up there. That was really pretty country up there. I used to go up there a lot. Used to camp out. You go past the follow the brook past upstream, past the mill. Then there was a really steep hill, and I used to go up there. It wasn't up, but way up. There's no trail. It just kept going up and up and up onto one of the shoulders on Paugus. And I had a special spot there where I used to go and bring my tent and just camp out there overnight, just because I was just lovely.
You really studied the area, didn't you?
I did. I lived for the woods. That's I spent, I'd get out of school as soon as, because they had split shifts for high school, and we were home by 12:30, 1 o'clock. And I was out in the woods immediately. And that's all I did all year round.
Did you have a
Snowshoeing.
camera with you? Did you take a lot of
No.
photos?
I did later on, but I in the late 70s I did. But I wished I'd done it then, because there was so many beautiful, it was just wild country. I mean, well, because you've been back up there. It's, it was, nobody, you would never see anybody.
The best picture I have is my buddy and I. He was 13, I was 14. The first time he'd ever been up, and we're both leaning towards each other with elbows on that sand on the table up there, which is gone.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, I just love that
on
picture.
top of Chicago.
When we went up Liberty, when he first saw the peak, the first thing he looked at like this, he said, we should have put pickaxes and ropes. He had to use ropes to get. He could. Everybody never saw that peak before, but he put into it. How the hell are you going to get up there? He couldn't imagine it. I said, we're going to walk up there. No way.
But you can. I mean, there's that one ledge that's kind of steep that has the spike in it. That ledge with the spike in it, which is a bit steep, and you just walk across it. And the rule in our family was you had.
My grandpa was fire warden up there for 6 years.
Oh.
Yeah, back during the.
And that was that table you said.
That was his writing table.
Oh, cool.
And they all had binoculars. They had a telephone up there. They actually had ran a line. They lived on the first brook. You come up, you come going up the Liberty Trail. It's almost exactly a mile to the first brook.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
There was a
Yes.
house, long
Oh,
gone.
right. Okay.
And my grandmother, he and 3 children all lived in that little place each summer. My father, when he was 4 years old, my grandmother had 2 babies, and my grandfather gone up to do whatever he did. And all of a sudden, little Johnny was gone. That's my father. Well, she couldn't leave. She called and called. No Johnny. That was around 2 in the afternoon. So she couldn't leave the 2 babies. I was
Yeah.
so worried. And she said, I bet he went looking for Papa. A little while later, here he comes. He's on his father's shoulder. He made it all the way almost to the Hammond Trail.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good.
Old. If
That's
he'd
a
gone
good.
down the Hammond, God knows it.
Oh, that would have been.
Yeah.
Well, because I remember that. I remember that brook because that we'd always stop and refill our canteens on, on that brook, and
running water there. I remember the pipes used to be there. Yeah, the pipe ran water up the stream quite a ways, and that was my grandmother's continuous flow of water into the cabin. Imagine
nice
like that. And one was an infant baby just born.
Yeah,
that's rough.
Different. Oh yeah. But
I can't imagine.
Did you ever know? I never knew because he died before I was born, but my mother remembered him. It was on Fowler's Mill Road. George Washington Brown.
Oh yeah, I didn't know him. He died before me too, but he was.
Yeah, my mother knew him. He was quite a character.
During the First World War, he shooting planes going over.
Yeah, he was.
When I saw him crash up on the side of the mountain, this is stories I heard about.
He was an odd one. And then there was Jessie Whitehead. She had a camp down by where the Pelletiers later had.
Oh yeah, Whitehead. Sure.
Yeah, Jessie Whitehead. I remember her.
Everywhere.
I remember. She had a parrot on her shoulder. And I remember her leaning. I was really little, and she scared the hell out of me. She had this parrot on her shoulder. Oh, and I'm like, I was probably 3 or 4. And I was whoa.
Jessie Whitehead.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Grandpa had a funny story about that once. He had his little teenage girl, was her niece, would be anyway, was riding somewhere up there with it, and they came upon Jessie. And he just telling her Jessie rides a bicycle everywhere she goes.
Yeah.
And she said, how the heck? Oh, she said, she was thinking she must be rich for some reason. She said, I'll bet she's got piles. And my grandfather was thinking, yeah.
Yeah.
He said, well, she probably has. And then he realized what the hell she was thinking. So then he discussion. Yeah, but my call the time, she probably thinks she really has piles.
Really has piles.
I remember. I just barely remember her.
Yep, that because they were just around the corner from our house, just and gosh, and I remember Jim Liberty's barn. It was still standing when I was little. That big old drafty barn. It was really spooky looking.
Jim Liberty's barn. You remember that?
No.
Oh, it was.
Rob?
Oh, this was in the 60s. It was gone in the mid 60s for sure.
And it's different than the cabin that's way up top, right?
Oh no, this was Jim Liberty's barn. Do you remember with the there was I think it was the Haynards, and then it became the Villardo's place on Fowler's Mill Road.
My house at one time was a stagecoach stop.
Yeah.
Liberty built that house originally around.
It was between your house and our house. On the left side, there was this big old drafty barn. I was falling apart in the 60s, and it belonged to Jim Liberty.
You remember it?
Yeah. Vaguely remember it.
I remember it.
It was torn down in the 60s. And there was also when you go from your house, how the Fowler's Mill Road towards our place was fairly straight, and then it makes a big bend to the right. But just before you get to our house, well, there used to be a huge boulder
Professor,
huge boulder that was on the side of the road that was
Yeah.
set
but you know
back in the hill.
The Wintner place right across from where your house was. The
Yeah, I
Wintners-
know the Wintners well.
Claude Wintner and his wife.
Claude
They
and
were both
Martha, and
professors
then
at Harvard.
Claude's mother was Ermengarde.
Yes, she's the one I started working for when I was a teenager, working for her.
Right, yeah.
Now,
They were nice
well,
people.
I'm still trying to figure out where the hell that barn was.
It was you could see it from the road. As you went, like from your house, if you were driving down towards our place, it was on the left. There's a
The left
house
going up. Yeah.
going towards our house
Yeah.
from your place, from your
Yeah.
old place.
On my side of the road, not your side of the road. On the left.
Yes,
corner.
on your side of the
Okay.
road. It was on your
All
side
right.
of the
Where
road,
the hell was that barn?
and it was a big old brown barn. And it was torn down in the, I would guess 64, 65, something like that. And I remember my mother saying that was Jim Liberty's barn from the Jim Liberty Trail.
Damn.
And that's, I remember that. Yeah. And then there was a big rock on the other side of the road that was set in the hill. And my mother remembered it. I mean, I remembered it too. And the road crew blew it up to widen the road. But that was what we called the Waiting Rock. And I knew it, my mother knew it as the Waiting Rock, and my grandmother knew it as the Waiting Rock. And you would go there and yeah, because if someone was coming to visit, you'd go and you'd sit there and you'd wait and you could watch them come if you were a kid. When my grandmother was a little girl, my mother was a little girl, this rock, they would climb up and sit. And we did when I was very little, but then the road crew blew it up about the same time the barn went down.
So if you had people to visit, you would tell them, look for the big rock and I'll be sitting on the big rock.
Yeah, we used to sit up there. And if you were a little kid, it was a kind of a good climb getting up there. It was a little scary, but it was fun.
Yeah, remember that big rock, John?
Oh, I don't
Roff
remember
says they
that
blew
barn.
it up when he was a
I just
kid.
don't remember now.
You can still see if you go down, oh, you could anyway. If you go down the road on the right side, just before you make that turn, right on the turn, this is why it was the Waiting Rock and why they blew it away, because it
You
was
talking
on the
about where
turn.
the Porter barn was?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, towards just before you get to our house from your place, on
Yeah.
the right, you'll see a big indentation where the rock used to be. I think the indentation is still there.
You gotta look for that.
Yeah, we got to go find it.
We gotta go find that.
Because that used to be the Waiting Rock. And
They blew it up.
yes. Oh,
Why?
to widen the road.
Oh, it was in the road a little bit.
Well, only a little bit.
I was up there hundreds. I used to go up there. Every time I
mean,
up the car.
I was a little kid and I was really upset when I heard that, because my grandmother, because we were in Chicago, my grandmother said they blew up the Waiting Rock. I'm like, whoa, I love that rock.
That's they had to widen the road, Roff, to handle all the traffic that's going.
Yeah, I mean, how stupid was that? But they did it, and there's no putting it back.
But when John and I were making that movie on that trip that day, we were on Chinook Trail at one point.
Yes.
We had passed the kennels and we were heading, and we got to a place that is Peg Lofgren's Bakery, and she's got the big baking oven in there, and she's baking.
Oh, yeah, I remember you mentioning that. Yeah.
Peg King was my teacher. She was my third, fourth grade teacher.
I remember Peg King.
Okay, it's her niece got it now. Her name is Peg too.
Oh, you were talking to her. Yes, I think her because
so we're talking to her right in the middle. Stopped the car in the middle of Chinook Trail, and we were talking to her for it had to be a good 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Just completely stopped. Not a single
Yeah.
car either direction.
No, but I remember I used to weed Peg King's garden and get the snow off her roof in the winter. She lived with Eileen Irwin, a woman named Eileen Irwin, and they lived together.
Very, very close friends.
Yes.
Very close.
Yes. I take your meaning.
Right?
You didn't talk about that back in those days.
No, you didn't. But yeah. But yeah, they were. And nice, I get the idea that Peg would have been a pretty strict teacher.
She was. She was a good teacher, but she was strict. Oh yeah, you get the ruler on the hands once in a while back then.
Yeah.
And then I went to my aunt upstairs, and she was twice as strict. It's great.
Well, then
There was school up on the hill.
right, yes, because you talked about that in the
7 years, yes.
But Also, I remember Dick Stearns, the postmaster.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you never wanted to go down to pick up the mail with my grandfather because he was great mates with Dick Stearns. So he would go in to pick up the mail. And if he came out in under an hour, you were lucky.
Oh, God.
So
Yeah.
we'd be sitting there in the car, just rolling our eyes. And, and you'd go in, and I can still see my Dick Stearns sitting there talking, my grandfather leaning against the counter with his cap in his hand and babbling away. And then it was because was it your mother had the laundry?
Yeah. For years, years,
Yep.
yeah.
And she had the laundry, and then Brett Chase at the barber shop in the back.
My father bought that building for $1,000.
Oh, goodbye.
They offered
Good
in the
deal.
paper, the selectmen offered in the papers, anybody could have it for $1, but they had to tear it down. Well,
Yeah.
my uncle Bill hit my father's brother. He was about to buy it for that dollar 'cause he wanted the lumber because he was building cottages on Silver Lake. Well, my father got wind of it. I don't think my uncle ever forgave him. He went to the man and said, "I'll give you $1,000 right now, and I guarantee I'll have businesses within 2 years." Within a year,
that's brilliant.
Get the laundry downstairs. Then the next thing you know, the post office moved in, and then Nancy called at the preschool upstairs.
At the preschool, and then Brett Chase at the barber shop in the back.
Landmark. That building is one of the landmarks of this town.
Oh, absolutely.
We're going to tear it down.
Yeah.
But the whole jam up there now. There's a knoll.
Yeah.
God,
you'd have some ugly brick structure that somebody built or something. But well, that was. But yeah, I remember, and also I remember because I remember hearing you played baseball, didn't you?
Oh yeah. Yes.
I do remember because, I mean, again, like I say, I was a kid and you were a grown up, but I do remember someone telling me that you had been a very, very good baseball player. And I kind of was like a little bit in awe because people had told me you were very good.
Well, fair to middling.
Yeah, you're being
modest. Well, I heard it was more than fair to middling.
Oh yeah. I played a lot of guys you may have heard of. But
because
any other names besides me?
Well, I know Dick Stearns used to play when he was younger. The postmaster.
My father did too. We were the last Tamworth Tigers.
Tamworth Tigers. That's the name. Yes, that was it. Yes.
Walter Vincent, Charlie.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Well, we had a good team. We never lost a game.
Yeah.
For about 3 years.
Well, I do remember because it was in conversation. I overheard, and people they mentioned, Johnny, he's a hell of a good ball player, and because it was about playing ball, and so I can't remember who said it, but I do remember hearing that, and that stuck in my mind. So when you mentioned the other day ball playing, I thought, yes, I remember that conversation.
I love baseball. My grandfather said I had a ball glove when I was a little boy. I was smaller than the ball glove. I started grabbing balls off the ground.
Yeah,
he'd want to brag. He'd want to brag about me a lot.
Gosh,
I was never. What the hell? When the big leagues sent us in, I was never scouted.
Well, they couldn't get everywhere.
I love to play ball.
But that's what I knew the Tamworth Tigers were a good team.
My father played in that one.
Now, was it right across the street over here by Remick, or was it up the road here by Kenneth Brett?
That's where we played. That's where we played all the games.
Okay.
Brett.
Yeah.
But we started our team down behind the old school up here, and they built the school in '57. They opened up early '57, but they didn't put a ball field in for 2 years. And then they put that in. We had a place to play. But we started practicing right down in back of the old school. There was a ball field down there.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
Back in Ned Bears and so forth.
Yeah.
I was 17 then. Well, I was 17.
So, Roff, when you were living here as a kid, what was going on at the Remick farm?
I don't know what went on in the Remick. I just knew Dr. Remick, and I knew the thing about Dr. Remick is if you got ill, no matter what you had, I don't care if you had a broken finger. Exactly. You got the penicillin. It didn't matter what
break your arm. He gave you a shot of penicillin.
Exactly. It was that was. I mean, I think the only thing he knew how to do, but that's all he ever did. But the penicillin.
He was a better veterinarian than he was a doctor.
I think so.
Really? Oh God.
But
He
yes,
never got his internship. If he had a patient, the patient was in the hospital. He could not go in that hospital and doctor the patient because he was never a full-fledged doctor.
no, but everyone acted like he was.
But the one thing he was really good at for some reason was pneumonia. And I remember as a kid, the parking lot would be filled up with the office hours night. And you'd see plates from Vermont and Maine.
Yeah.
You know, those people got pneumonia. That's the only damn reason they would go to him.
Yeah.
And a shot of penicillin.
Penicillin. Yeah.
Grandfather.
It's hilarious. You remember exactly the same thing. That's what he did. Penicillin. Boom.
Penicillin.
And
Grandpa Harold said that's how when Bitsy said every time he goes to shift, give me a shot of penicillin in the ass, he aims for a pimple.
Yeah. Oh,
He's cruel. Yeah, he'll aim for a pimple.
yeah. He was something else.
He was
But,
a hard doctor.
And I was also friends with Francis Cleveland.
Oh, great guy.
He was a great guy.
Great guy. Yes.
And such a real gentleman. And I used to love going to the Barnstorm. I mean, it was a treat. We couldn't afford it very much, but for my birthday, my mother would take us out to the Barnstormers. That was like a summer treat. We might go a couple times in the summer, and then my grandfather was friends with Francis Cleveland, and that's how I got to know him. And when I used to come back from college, because I went out to Ohio for a few years to go to college, and I would come back and I would take Francis out to lunch just to hear his stories. We used to go over to the dam shop, the place by Shikawa, and the little sandwich place there. And we would go there, and I would just listen to his stories, and amazing.
Very interesting man.
Oh, very interesting man, and a nice man, very nice man. And,
I was lucky. I had all my grown-up years, starting with Ghost Train. I had a season ticket. I had a season ticket. My grandmother was best friends with Alice Cleveland. That's Francis' wife.
Well,
and she would give us, and she'd say, "Where do you want to sit?" And I said, "I want to sit on the balcony." So every year, that's where we sat, up on the balcony.
I mean, but those were I have such good memories because because it would get kind of warm in the theater. Then they have an intermission. You go out and it would be just this nice summer night, and you go and the plays were always so good. I mean, Ghost Train, and of course Francis Cleveland's.
Was it like Rodgers and Hammerstein or what kind
No. They didn't do it. Was kind of old fashioned. I remember
Our
when
Town.
I was Our Town, Harvey.
Ghost Train.
Ghost Train, that was their.
That was scary.
Oh, it was a good one.
That's scary.
Really. And then they had some of the. I remember some of the name. I mean, Cope Murray. He was one of the actors.
Yeah, he died a little while ago.
Oh, did he? Oh, right.
About 2 years ago. I used to see him every morning this week. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He was a lovely guy too. He was nice.
And he was a great actor.
Oh, he was. He was good. And Francis Cleveland played Harvey. I mean, Elwood P. Dowd in Harvey, and no one did it better. No one, And those nights when we would go and see the Barnstormers, I remember these things. Like we would have a dinner, before we're going to the Barnstormers, we have a nice dinner, and we would get our sweet corn from Harry Thompson.
Oh yeah,
he made the best. He grew the best corn, and we'd have this, like trout and some sweet corn, trout from the brook, sweet corn. Go down and see the Barnstormers, and when we were kids, you come back, it's like 10 o'clock at night, and it felt like super late. You're driving up the river road, and it's pitch black, and a deer jumps out or something, and it was just such lovely memories.
Yes.
Such one, I would love to go back there for, if someone could make me a wish, and go back for a week to those days, it would be wonderful. Imagine it. But
if you could do that.
Well, the thing is, it's what's also unique about it, Roff, as you were saying before, is that it really didn't change that much between John's and your childhood. And I would venture to say that it's probably changed less than any other place since you've been gone.
I hope so. I would like to think that, because I know it was funny. I loved hearing your stories, John, because they were so much. I mean, you're 18 years older than me, but our childhoods were the same.
Yeah.
bicycles,
Yeah.
blueberries, the mountain, going, dodging the game warden. It was all the same. It was fun. Build a dam in the brook. Kind of
I
stop the trout and make it whole. It was pretty good.
Yeah. I was gone in Connecticut. I was gone to Connecticut for 35 years. And Katie Thompson was writing to me, and she said, I hope you're not disappointed when you come back to Tamworth. There's been some changes. I expect to see skyscrapers in the middle of Tamworth where she talked. I come back,
Yeah,
it was the same. It was just
that's
the
nice.
same.
Yeah,
And there's no
that's
new
really good
house.
to.
There's
That
no
is
new
so
house
good.
in Tamworth Village.
That is so good to hear. I mean, it really is.
And a lot of it too is Katie Thompson's work that she's done. She's so committed. And so I don't know if you knew, probably when you were here, Roff, there's a place that Katie has created as a history center here.
Okay.
And it used to be, I think, an apartment house right next to Rec.
Right across from Dr. Remick's office is a big, long, one of the oldest houses in town.
Right. Yeah. 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 Okay. Yes.
It was called the Corbett Place way, way back.
Yeah.
But it was
Yeah.
filled with apartments. He made that whole thing. I worked on it for about a year after I came home. And inside now, upstairs and downstairs, is just filled with historic paraphernalia about Tamworth.
It's so worthwhile because it was such a lovely town and had such character. Your family is one of the oldest in Tamworth, isn't it?
Well, yes. Well, he came in 1791.
Yeah.
He became the minister, the first minister in town. But
Yeah.
Tamworth was here.
Ordination
It was
Rock. I know.
incorporated in 1766.
Yeah.
Incorporated. But then for 30 years, there were a few people here, but they
But I don't
wanted
know if that
ministers.
many families stayed. I mean, your family's been there the whole time.
Yeah, just about, yeah.
Yeah.
And they were looking for a minister because the town was growing bigger. Did you
Yeah.
know Tamworth proper at one time was up where the cemetery is now? That used
Yes.
to be Tamworth Village.
Yeah. It was a much bigger
They
place.
moved that townhouse. It was built up there, and they moved it by 14 team auction, or 40, moved it down to Tamworth. It's right across from the church now. Somebody got this about idea because they needed mills in those days, and there's nothing
Yes.
there. So Tamworth
Yeah.
moved all down here because mills all up and down the Swift River.
Yeah. Yeah. There were. Yes.
That's why this
Well,
became Tamworth, and that was
Well,
Tamworth.
yeah. Well, Fowler's Mill, that was a mill on Fowler's Mill Road. There was a
God.
mill,
Ah,
but
There were 5 mills here within a 2-mile stretch, right here in
Yeah.
Tamworth.
yeah, we
Yeah.
went up, John and I went up at one point, Roff. It's Greg's Way over here that goes along the river. And there's a building at the end, which I don't know, maybe that's a new building. There's some kind of business in there. They do the payroll for like Hollywood or some crazy thing like that. Some kind of goofy little niche business, And but then if you kind of look in the woods next to their building, you could see the bits and pieces of an old mill. The mechanical piece.
You saw me right up here.
Yeah, right up here.
Yeah, that whole thing, that was a Grange Hall when I was a kid.
That was Grange Hall?
Grange Hall, they turned it. They turned it around just like this.
Ah, okay.
And
Yeah,
now
yeah.
it is. I asked Tom Weir. I said, "What the hell is in there anyway?" I thought it was apartments. He said, "No, they got a businesses."
Yeah, crazy kind of
That was
business.
Grange Hall.
Yeah, yeah. But remember that mill that we saw in the woods? It's an old hunk of iron, and you look at the thing, and it's got all the gears and everything. It's amazing.
Oh yeah.
I always thought of going over there and seeing if they'll give it to me, and I could recondition it and put it on the front lawn of my daughter's house.
Ah. Well, my grandmother, now she was born in 1895, and she spent time up here as a little girl. I don't know how my family got involved with Tamworth because my great grandmother was from I think Baldwin, Maine. She's just across the border in Maine.
Yeah.
And for some reason they got involved with Tamworth, and I don't know. There's no one alive who could tell me. But anyway, my grandmother, when she was a little girl, they stayed at. It wasn't the Herb Farm. It was before that. It was a guy named Nat Berry who owned it, and it was a boarding house back in the day when Paugus Mill was still running. And my grandmother spent time there. And this was about 19, early 1900s, 1904, 1902. She was a little girl.
Yeah.
And she remembered um, the ruins of Fowler's Mill, the original Fowler's Mill, which was
Mhm.
up in the
I
woods.
never
It's
saw
long,
that.
long. Yeah, it was long gone. Probably, I think
Yeah.
it had vanished by the
I
30s,
no more
actually.
use.
But
We had sawmills, grist mills, every kind of everything done with millwork
yeah,
up in the river. And that's the place
yeah,
to live, way the hell up on towards Cleveland Hill. And they
yes, yeah.
finally got smart. Well, just get down there and build a mill. Well, now you got to travel back and forth.
Now, Roff,
So they all moved down there.
what John was making mention to before is that there's a house over here, it just sold recently, but it was owned by the the Walgreens guy. And
Oh, right.
as you're heading out of town,
Harry
place
Damon.
with the who was it
Harry
before?
Damon.
Harry
It's
Damon?
a Harry Damon.
Oh,
place.
right. Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got a pond right out in front of us, side the road. We used to skate there as kids.
Yeah.
Harry Damon has a big white house up on the hill.
Yeah.
And Walgreens,
Beautiful.
they sold for over $1 million.
What's that?
They sold for over $1 million.
Who did they?
Whoa.
No, Walgreens paid for it.
Oh yeah. And then
But Harry was a millionaire himself.
so I went and I was looking at that property. When my daughter got her place here, we just, the real estate lady says, "Oh, why don't you look at this?" Well, I mean, just to maintain the house, with the taxes and the utilities, you have to be really set. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
a pretty big overhead. But
This is perfect.
hey, it was a day out, so we went and we toured the house. It was
Yeah.
magnificent. They have on the inside of the house, they had something literally called Indian shutters.
Oh yeah, well, our house had
You had Indian shutters? Tell Rob what an Indian shutter is.
Pull them out like this and close them up.
It's for Indians shooting arrows into your house.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And and then we ended up, I said, well, I want to see the property. I drove these people crazy.
Yeah.
And I made them take me around the whole perimeter. It's 200 acres on that property. And when we came around to the end of it, that's the furthest from town, kind of over by where the hidden rock is, a consecration rock over there, right?
Yeah, Ordination Rock. Yeah.
Rock, yeah, right over there, in that kind of in that area. And we kind of got to this part of the woods, and it's the kind of thing where you kind of look around and go, something's different here. Like there's, and then they explained to me that years ago, and you could still see it, that was the main street coming down into like where Ordination Rock is right there, going up into the mountains. That's where the center of Tamworth was.
Yeah.
And you can kind of see it in the woods. And they said, yeah, you used to bring all the sheep down and everything else. It's really cool. Have you ever been in those woods there? It was really
Yeah. Well,
there's old cellar holes in there. The road used to be a town road, went across the Great Hill Road. And
we used to go looking for old bottles.
Cleveland Hill.
Oh, you were a bottle hunter too, Roff?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I made a couple $1,000 one year in the old bottles.
Yeah, I used to look for old bottles and glass insulators.
Yeah, I'll be damned. Yeah.
Yep. That was
He bought the place here almost next door. And his daughter's got a school over there. I want to tell you right now, I know what I'm talking about. She's had that school now for what, 3 years?
Mm-hmm.
Every mother in this town loves that girl. His Catherine. She's done a fantastic job with the kids. Everybody loves her. The kids love her. The mothers love her.
Oh, that's great.
Take the kids out of school and bring them to her. And they pay her. Not the town doesn't pay her. She won't come out and say it. She's very modest. But I know damn well she got up to 4th grade over here now. Up to 4th grade.
That's really,
yeah.
It's nice to hear that good things are happening in the town.
Yeah.
It's really nice to hear.
And those kids adore her. She say, "Okay, time to go up and go just like what was a lemming." Lemming.
Yeah. Oh
yeah. Never any sad.
Off when you were here, because I know there was Roy Houston and his dad. They owned it for a lot of years, and before the Houston family, it was
Frank Whipple.
Frank Whipple.
Frank Whipple. Yeah, he's old. We know all the crooks between us. We know all the crooks.
Yeah, we did.
He was the biggest Tamworth ever.
I think, yeah, we've pretty well covered the Tamworth underworld, I think.
Oh, yeah. I can tell you stories about Frank Whipple that were told to me by my grandfather. You wouldn't make you. Oh boy, he
yeah,
got to Berlin. He's got to Berlin. He needed help down his mill. He had a mill down there, and he needed help. And I don't know. He couldn't find help, but they didn't want to. He didn't want to pay. Well, anyway, he got in the card game up there with those Frenchmen up in Berlin at a bar or something.
oh yeah, they're all
He
French
got a
up
lot
there.
of money. What did he do? He up it right up so they knew they couldn't possibly, they'd have to fold. And they had enough money to pay him. This grandfather swore this is true. He said, "I tell you what, now you can pay me back." And they'd be drunk anyway. He'd load them all in a big truck, which he brought on purpose, take them down to Tamworth. Next morning they sobered up. They had no idea where they were. And he put them to work in the mills. How he'd get his help. He'd get them drunk playing cards.
That's
Yeah, real. That's the truth. Like Robert said, that's true. That's what he did. I don't doubt it.
Oh, I wouldn't doubt it either.
Oh,
No, that has the ring of truth. That has the ring of
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Frank Whipple was well there were some amazing characters. That was Mary Floyd. I mean I heard all the stories about her, what happened to her husband, and I don't know what the truth of that was, but that she was I mean a lot of people thought she bumped him off, and
I know an old guy in South Tampa that I know damn well she did.
yeah, well,
Going up Great Hill Road, goes about a mile. There's a house on the left. There's a big red house now. Somebody lived in there. He knew him, and he said the day that Whiting was shot, Mary was with somebody, a man, I guess, and she went in there. She said, "I want to wash my hands." Wash their hands in there. Next thing you know, they found the guy dead up on that. I wasn't around there because that's where I was born.
yeah, it's 36 or something like that.
I mean,
but
why did you stop and ask if she could wash her hands?
yeah,
I don't know how much, because they're going to make up all kinds of stories. Anyway,
yeah, but
Jim Welch was determined it was Wendell Falcons, and we know it wasn't Wendell Falcons.
No, I know. Yeah, everyone is that's what my grandmother and mother said. Everyone knew it wasn't Wendell Falcons, but they wanted a trial, and so they had a trial.
Wendell was a fly tire, and he used to go up there shooting birds to get the feathers.
Yeah,
with fine bird shot. And that's why he hung that area. And that's what they found. So, Wendell Falcons must have done it. And then it blew out of shape. Jim Welch wasn't entirely honest.
yeah, I had that impression too.
Yeah, but he never could prove it.
Well, yeah, that's what my mother said, that there was, and my grandmother also said that there were lots of footprints around where the body was, and they just didn't pay any attention to any of that, and they just pretended it didn't happen. But there was some pretty interesting characters in those days.
That guy Wendell that you guys mentioned, he took off after the trial, right? Is he the guy that left town, or was it someone else?
No, that was my grandmother. Swore that it was no. My grandmother was a she knew lots of stuff, but at the same time, my grandmother was fully capable of absolute bullshit. I mean, but she said it was that it was Charlie Hammond that had shot.
Yeah.
And then he ran off.
Charlie Hammond did not go to Alaska.
Well, that's what my grandmother said, but my grandmother made stuff up. So
yeah, he went to California because that's what
the mailed his ball and chain.
Didn't come back from Alaska. It came back from L.A.
Yeah,
the ball and chain, TOD. Tamworth Osmond Crestals.
I mean, I think I also knew Lottie Hammond, because I used to mow. Yeah, I used to mow her lawn and shovel her snow and stuff in the winter, and I knew she wasn't at all like Mary.
No, Lottie was nobody to mess with, but she was honest. No.
Yeah,
and a great mother. She raised a bunch of kids too.
Yes,
I want to go with us, with at least 3 of them.
But Mary was wild.
Wild.
Yeah.
Right.
Um, my mother or grandmother always maintained that Mary kept the boys entertained at the CCC camp during the
I
during
don't
the
know.
Depression. I don't know.
Never heard that.
That's what my grandmother was full of
The
was full of.
CCC camps were run pretty damn strict. You know what?
I thought so, but my grandmother, she made stuff up. My grandmother was a
But to her, that made sense. A half crazy woman like Mary, but she's probably over there screwing all those guys. That's
yeah
bullshit.
that's
Yeah.
because
no.
my grandmother was a well.
I didn't know your grandmother, but that doesn't sound.
Oh, you were lucky. You were lucky. She was no one you wanted to
You know
know.
what the CCC boys were paid?
No.
$30 a month, and they sent half of it home to their family. That gave
Yeah.
them $15. And they stayed awful drunk for about 2 days, and they were out of money.
Then they were just living on whatever the food was supplied, and yeah. But
Had a daughter, an 18-year-old daughter down. You want to be watching her pretty close in those days. My grandfather said, watch
yeah.
him.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Now, who would have
That-
been when you were here, Roff? Who would have been operating the Tamworth Inn?
The name, I can't think of his name. I remember because
Harry
we were in there.
Haskell.
Yeah, but he had a really messy roll top desk. It was absolutely spectacularly messy, filled with. Because I remember when I was a kid, we were in there, and I think that was the guy's name. But and I still remember
Harry
I
Haskell?
remember his desk being so messy.
You don't remember the name Carrie Haskell?
The name rings a bell. But
Madeline was the cook. They had a redheaded daughter.
yes,
Harry
yes,
Haskell.
yes. That was because
Carrie Haskell. Yeah, we were good
we
friends. He was there for a long
we
time.
we ended up staying there once, and I don't know what all happened because I was really little, but there was some big disagreement. My parents and my mother's parents, they had some big falling out, and we moved from the house into the inn, and we spent a few days there. I don't remember what that was all
We
about,
just
but
stayed at the inn.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And I don't know. I mean, there was obviously some very bad ill will. My family was spectacular. I mean, we didn't make the newspapers. Well, no, not in New Hampshire. My father made the newspapers in Chicago, but my family was spectacularly awful. I mean, well, I'll tell you, but you don't need to spread this around. This is
No,
well, the reason we came, my father was a lawyer in Chicago, and well, he got
not during the
involved.
Depression.
No, this is just
Was
around
he
when I
a
was
lawyer
just
during the Depression?
no, he was a lawyer in Chicago in the 60s,
Oh, in 6. Okay.
and he got involved with some really bad people.
In Chicago?
I leave you to guess what kind of people they were.
Yeah.
Anyway, he got him. Yeah, he got bumped off,
Oh,
and
wow.
and yeah, and that's
Who
why
got bumped off?
His
my
dad.
father.
His dad did?
Yeah,
Oh, I didn't know that. Didn't realize
yeah.
that.
Well, that we kept it really quiet.
Oh,
And we that's why we had to get out of town, because people thought that maybe my mother knew stuff, and she probably did know a little, but she didn't. I mean, he was careful not to involve us. But no, we were there for a couple of years after he died because we couldn't get rid of the house. And but it was, I mean, they actually had evacuation plans in case my brother or I got kidnapped, so how we could get out of the town, and the school was informed, and if anyone was hanging around, it was we had our phones tapped. It was pretty heavy stuff, and so that's why we came back to New Hampshire, and it was much safer.
I mean,
And
what was that like for you, Roff? I mean, going to Chicago. How old were you when you went to Chicago?
well, the funny thing is, I mean, I'm remembering my childhood. It was divided between, because my mother didn't like, well, my mother didn't like a lot of stuff that was going on, for obvious. So we would be taken out and come back to New Hampshire, and we'd stay
Yeah,
there in
right.
Tamworth, and then we'd
Ah,
go back, and
okay.
then, you know, things kept going back and forth, and so we shifted back and forth, and then, you know, my father got offed, and then we got rid of the house, and then we came back full time to New Hampshire, and that was that. But that was our safe place, you know, and that's why we would come back. And so my earliest memories are of New Hampshire and the brook and the mountain and all that.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that was uh yeah, and then yeah, and the other half of my family was no better. I mean, they, they were. I mean, my family was spectacularly awful. Really, yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah,
What a great place to grow up. And
that
I
was
mean,
part of the reason I ended up going off to Australia. To be honest, um, I
the,
I you know I just wanted to get out, and I did. That was the farthest place I could think of where they spoke English,
right.
and so I emigrated to Sydney, and then lived in Melbourne, and I visited now and then, but you know I stayed away, and I missed. I mean, I would come back, and you know I missed Tamworth a lot. I missed the mountain, the brook. Um, you know, that, growing up there, as you know, John. I mean, that
That's
leaves
what I
an
missed
imprint.
whenever I went away. I missed the mountains. I always think about Chicorowa, and
Exactly.
I lived in
And yeah,
Florida one winter, and I couldn't wait to get back here. Oh, by the
yeah,
way,
I mean,
I went to high school in Melbourne.
No, you're in
yeah,
Melbourne, Florida.
I know. Yeah, Melbourne.
yeah. I think it was a different Melbourne.
Yeah, it was quite a bit different. A lot of
But,
black people down there.
yeah,
I was in
well,
school when it was segregated.
yeah. Oh, well,
All white, 2,000 kids, and then they had a high school for the blacks called Stone High. I
hmm.
remember to get all our used books from the Melbourne. You know, life was bad back then for those people.
Yeah. Well, I went to the really, really deep South, Australia.
Oh, geez. Oh,
But and you know, I had a good life there, but as you know, you grow up in the mountains, and it leaves its mark on you. You remember it, and it
mhm.
becomes a part of you, and you know, um, I miss it. Um, but I couldn't bear to go back and you know, with the house the way I mean, it would be too upsetting, and I just so I don't.
So many
And
memories.
yeah, but you
Yeah.
know, the funny thing is, on my boat, you know, when in that house that you saw, the house that we lived in, there was the porch, and I kind of lived in the porch. I always slept on the porch, and that was my special place. And when I had my boat made, I designed the boat so that it reminded me of the porch
Oh,
at the
really?
yeah. Oh yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. I have some of the same books. I've got a long sofa. We had an old mission sofa on the porch. I couldn't get an exact copy, but I had something near as damn it, and it sits here. I'll send you a picture.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
got,
but that was what I wanted, was something that reminded me of the porch and the house in Tamworth. And
have you
so
really looked at the mountain?
oh yes, yes,
Oh, yeah. Many
multiple
times I
times.
read that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The,
That's a great book.
oh, it was
Yeah.
the Grand Cannon.
Yep.
Yep.
Great.
His granddaughter
It was
went
gorgeous.
to,
I fell in
yeah,
love with her, and I was already married.
she was gorgeous. Yes, I remember her. But yeah, she was a looker. Um,
Yeah. I used to play for dances over at the Happens in the Field.
oh, I remember. Yeah,
And yeah, and her brother used to work with me when they were rebuilding the barn. And she'd be around. She was too young anyway, but God, she was a
yeah.
pretty.
Well, she was closer to my age, and I quite fancied her.
Oh, she's beautiful.
Yeah. Oh
Anyway,
yeah.
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 I keep interrupting. I can't help
No,
it.
no, no. It's this has been wonderful. I really have enjoyed this.
Yeah, me
This
too. Glad to
it's
see
you
you
know,
again.
well, it's nice to see you too, John. You know, and I keep thinking back, you know, because I remember when Missy and Jackie are little kids and they're running around and you're at your house and we're walking down the road, and I'm thinking I'm picturing those people and thinking, who would have dreamed 50 odd years later
Yeah.
we'd be talking on technology that we couldn't. I mean, this was like
Couldn't even imagine.
couldn't even imagine it.
No.
And I'm sitting here living in England and on a boat, and but we're talking about stuff, but it's just like talking to you now. It's just like it's 1974 again. It's
right. I know what you mean.
it's nice. I really like. It's been wonderful.
This really has nothing to do with anything, but you said the difference of technology like this. We wouldn't even dreamed about. But I want to tell you, in 1953, my grandmother Bray, my mother's mother, lived in Los Angeles. And we lived up on the farm up here. My father and mother did. I lived in the next house, but I was up there a lot. And she said, let's call your grandmother. It took 15 minutes to get through to Los Angeles on the telephone. Think of that.
Yeah.
And now look at this.
Yes.
Right,
and I mean, we're looking at each other. We're not sitting there listening like this. This is where we can see each other, and it's just it's. I mean, I'm sitting here up in Yorkshire, and you're at Tamworth, and we're chatting away, and it's. I will send you some photos of where I am. And the boat.
And the boat, yeah. I didn't realize you that you had the boat designed.
I did. I mean, it meant a lot to me. That house and the porch. I mean, I spent so many nights there. We had this big old mission sofa and a Hudson Bay blanket, and I kind of curl up in that. And we had these big, heavy old pillows, and there was a pine-scented one, that balsam pillow, and I would sleep out there. And I could hear, sometimes you hear a bear scream in the woods, or the deer would come up to the house, and I could hear the brook, rushing down. And I had such good memories of that. And so this is, I mean, I'll never have that house, and that's it. That's happened the way it's happened. But so I made it into my own version, and so it's got a country kitchen, a gold country table, and a settee like the one on the porch, which I still sleep on occasionally, and books. I have some of the same books, even if I couldn't get them from the house. I remembered the books and bought them used on Amazon. So I've got some of the same books here that were, the old Perry Mason novels, the old Mickey Spillane's, the things that you just sit and read on the porch. They're here. Fu Manchu. And so, it was that really was part of the design of my boat.
You read High Sheriff, John tells me you did read High.
Yes, I did. Yeah. We had a copy at the house. And that was an interesting read. But that was I would have read that about 1990, I guess, a long time ago. But we had it in the house.
And what was that other book, John, that my daughter has that we got to get back for?
Oh, the Lower Mount Washington Valley. My mother comprised this. She's Mrs. Hewlett. You see, my mother wasn't born and raised in Tamworth. She's married and came here.
Okay.
But she was born in Buffalo, New York. She was raised in Holyoke, Massachusetts. So a lot in that book, I know, as I was reading it, is wrong. Just dead wrong. And Mrs. Hewlett's from Massachusetts for about 10 years up here. And the two of them together didn't know shit. And I'm looking through it. I did mistake after mistake after mistake. And I wrote to Katie. And I showed her a couple of pictures that she said I knew that they were wrong. The picture was all right, but each picture had a caption under it.
Yeah, and caption's wrong.
I said, Jesus, this isn't right. So I wrote to Katie. And she wrote right back, oh my gosh, she said, am I glad you wrote? She said, that book is so messed up. He said, drives me crazy reading it. And I said, yeah, people that know the truth. But I wish I had helped been around to help my mother when she was doing it. But anyway, it's a great book to look at.
Yeah, well,
He said, if you aren't from the area, it sounds good because if you don't know the facts, it doesn't bother you. But if you know the facts, it drives you crazy.
Well, it just drives you nuts. Yes, and
Walmart,
So
Washington Valley, kind of see Canada still
Yeah.
got that.
That's-
That. The other thing we're gonna do, Roff, is John and I, we're gonna make a time and go over to the History Center.
All right.
Yeah, John wrote how many pages?
I wrote a 3,600 and 100 pages by hand.
3,600
Wow.
pages, and much of that
It's history.
history of Tamworth.
Well, I mean, that's why, I mean, they should come take those and curate them and make the history, because I mean,
I know. I have a photographic memory. I remember
Yeah.
everything word for word.
I've noticed your memory is, yeah, you don't miss anything. I've
No,
noticed that.
and everything my grandfather taught me,
Yeah.
told me, my great grandfather told me, old guy. I used to listen to the old people. And it's the smartest thing a young person can do is listen to the old people.
I did the same. I did exactly the same.
Yeah. And that was so Katie got to say all of, I numbered them. I know there's 3,600 because I kept a journal. And every
Yeah.
time I send Katie a letter, I'd say, out to Katie 22, out to Katie 30. I mean, pages.
Yeah.
I had them all up to get to 3,600 pages I wrote to her in 12 years.
So when I,
Well,
when
I
I
mean,
get them
they'll-
scanned in, Roff, we're gonna get them scanned in and put them
Yep.
online for you. So you'll
Oh,
be able to enjoy.
I'd like, yeah, I'd love to see. Well,
Lot of
really,
it
you,
is boring,
you should put together a book. I mean, because you're probably, you might even be the last person who could actually do it.
Yeah,
You know, I was thinking a while ago, I was talking to my cousin Jim, who died recently. And I said, you know something, Jim? There's nobody to ask anymore. Now, if we don't know the answer, nobody does. Because we're
No,
the last
exactly.
generation. I never gave that a thought until just then. I said, because before I'd have a question, I asked my grandfather, and he'd have the answer. I'd ask my
Yeah.
father. Now people ask me,
Yeah,
and if I don't know, well, nobody does.
yeah, that's it. I mean, you are it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you're an entertaining raconteur. And I think, given the inaccuracies of other things that have been written, you could, curate some of those things that you've, because you've already got the bulk of the material. And it
Oh,
just,
yeah.
it would make
Want me to take those. You see, she wanted me to take those and read them all again, and she said, "Pick out the good stuff, the good stories." I said, "Katie, I can't do that." I said, I did a few, but I said, "You're asking too much. I just can't go and read that whole damn thing."
no,
all
that 3,600 pages is a lot.
It's a lot, hell of a lot.
And handwritten is hard to read too. It's not like it's, typed, and so handwritten would be really,
I know you don't like AI, Roff, but I'm gonna see if I could have AI take a crack at it. See if AI is into reading cursive, people's unique
well,
cursive.
you'll probably find some that'll, I'm sure there's some program that can do it. Because they seem to be able to do everything. But that's the thing. You've got some wonderful memories, John, and that, like you say, I mean, I was talking about how my family got involved in Tamworth. There's no one I can ask. My mother might have known. She's been dead for 25 years.
Get to a certain age in life,
Yeah.
and you've got nobody to ask.
No.
There's nobody alive to ask.
Yeah.
And it can
Nobody
be
at all.
aggravating because there are things I don't remember, and I want somebody to tell me what the answer is, and there isn't anybody. If I don't
Well,
remember, it doesn't exist.
Since I was listening to your thing the other day, I mean, I started writing just a recollection of a bicycle trip over to the Bear Camp River to go fishing. And I thought I might write a few essays like that about, going up Shikarawa and going down to the brook and exploring the brook. Because, I mean, I've got kids and they've never been to New Hampshire, but they might want to read about it someday and find out,
Different sense of things. Now, where did they grow up, Roff, your kids?
England.
Yeah,
they're
was
English.
it a countryside, or was it a town or a city or?
City, small town. Oh, it's not small town. 100,000. Place called Hastings.
Uh-huh.
My youngest is 22, and she's she's just become engaged, and the other's 24, and she's doing her PhD in archaeology at the University of York. She's very much an academic type.
What year were you born?
58.
58. That's the year I graduated from high school.
Yes.
58. That's when I went to high school in Melbourne, 1958.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Gosh, yeah. Oh,
When I
yep.
came back. Huh.
So
But
yeah, I
we'll,
was.
we'll go. We'll get those things.
Now
And
where your daughters live, does your boat go there anywhere near there?
No, I can get my boat as far as south as London, but at the moment we're suffering from a drought at the moment over here, and they're having to. I'm on a very old canal called the Leeds and Liverpool, way up north in Yorkshire, and they're having to close the locks because we're water shortage. And so I mean, I just came back up here. I'm on the top part of the canal. I came back up here the other day from Skipton, which meant coming up through 15 locks. It's hard work. And yeah, I was working the windlass, and you push the doors open and get on the boat and you put it in. And yeah, it took 3 days. Skipton's only like a 20-minute bus ride, but it takes about 3 days on a canal boat. Particularly with the locks being low on water. But I can get down as far as London, and I can get up to York. I can actually go to York. Not now because the locks are because the canal's closing, but I can go down to Leeds, then get on the Arun Calder, and then you go up to the River Ouse, and then you go all the way up to York. And I can do it. In fact, I could actually moor just outside where my daughter lives. I could literally moor, I mean, where she looks out her window and there's my boat. I'm not sure she'd be keen on that. Hi, I'm just moving in. Don't mind me. Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, I can actually go there. And so
And with all the area they can cover on the canals.
there's 2,000 miles of canals. There's 2,000 miles altogether. And they're all from the 18th century, early 19th. I think the last canal. The youngest about 1816.
About England is how little distance you could travel and how dramatic the accent will change.
Right? Oh gosh, oh yes. I mean, some of the accents here, the Yorkshire accents. Some of the Yorkshiremen can't understand accents from other parts of Yorkshire. I mean, there's a place called Barnsley, and even the Yorkshire people laugh and say no one can understand them. I mean, incredible accents. But yeah, and the countryside changes quite a bit too. I mean, I'm up in the place called the Pennines, which is mountainous kind of. I mean, the canal that I'm on is 120 miles long, but it's got 92 locks.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's no small matter to travel the Leeds and Liverpool Canal. It's I've done it twice, but back and forth.
Can you get with the canal system? Can you get to places like Newcastle and Sunderland and those kind of like Geordie?
Newcastle, no. I can get Leeds. I've moored in the heart of Leeds. It was funny. Yeah, Leeds is a big city, and I've gone in. I was literally moored outside the Hilton, and I just and because I'm what they call a continuous cruiser, I can moor anywhere on the canal for up to 2 weeks. So even in the heart of Leeds, I'm right outside the Hilton. I can stay there for 2 weeks for free.
Yeah.
And so I went in and asked the Hilton people at the Hilton. I said, "How much do you charge for a room?" And they said, with a canal view, it was 180 pounds per night. And so I stayed there for 2 weeks for free, and just then move on. So
how was your boat powered?
Diesel. I got a 42 horsepower diesel engine, and then I have
the canal. You got a mule pulling the boat up. I'm thinking about.
Well, they used to up until
the Erie Canal, New York.
Yeah, they used to. That was the horses.
Yeah.
And first thing I thought of was the Erie Canal.
Well, it's the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
And now my boat is 58 feet long and just under 7 feet wide. So it's very narrow. That's why they're called narrow boats.
That's about the max length. Isn't that really long for a narrow boat? That's kind
of no, it's about, if you're going to live on one, it's about the right length. They can be up to 70 feet. 70
wow.
feet is the low, but not on this canal. On this canal, my boat is as long as you can get.
How wide is your boat?
7 feet, 6 foot
7
10,
feet.
6 foot 10. Yeah, it's that narrow.
Right there.
How the hell?
You got to get them by each other, you know? Yeah.
Here, just wait. Let me see if I can. How do I do this? I'm going to see if I can turn the camera around. Oh, see. No. Okay. Can you see?
Yeah.
That's great.
Yep.
Okay. Now
Oh
there's my
my
galley.
God.
Beautiful.
That's your kitchen?
Love it.
That's my kitchen.
6
That is
feet,
beautiful.
10 inches.
Look at that. See,
Yeah.
biggest
Well,
job.
inside it's narrower. It's about 6'4", 6'5" wide inside, but that's the kitchen. And okay, just a second. That's my settee. There's the stove, the coal stove. I heat with coal in the winter. And
Yeah.
there's my bookshelf and the sofa that I got to look like the porch. Here, just
Oh.
a second. I'll show you a little bit, if you don't mind. You've shown me a bit of Tamworth. I'll show you a bit of the
Great.
Legion Liverpool Canal.
Now, is this the
Okay.
back of the boat here?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Well, that
There's the
looks like Erie Canal to me.
That's the canal.
Beautiful.
And here's
Oh, yeah.
there's going back. Here's the boat. Here, just a second.
You're all alone there.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. There's the boat.
So beautiful. Is that is that fiberglass or shellac? It's a beautiful finish on there.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lovely finish. It's steel. It's all steel. And there's the boat. And
How did
it's
you
like-
come? I've got to be nosy. How did you come by this boat?
He had it designed for
I
himself.
had it built.
Oh, you had
I sold everything I owned, which wasn't much, and which was basically a plot of land in Australia, and I had it built by a boat builder. Here's the yeah. There's
Beautiful.
so the whole length of it, and back there is just I'll give you the walkthrough so you can
Great.
see what it's like. You get to this really narrow part here.
Mhm.
Back here.
Yep.
And there's the old bed. Bed's not made, unfortunately. I didn't know I was having company. So it's just a bit
God,
messy. But
look
I'll
like mine.
straighten it out a little bit. But yeah, it's a bed, and then there's my porthole.
Oh,
There's the
yeah.
other-
Porthole. Look at that.
Yeah.
Yep. And then come back through here and toilet,
Well, the
bathroom,
finish is
shower, and all the mod cons. And yeah, I got a washing machine, and
beautiful
then-
porcelain.
yeah, and then I can open these hatches if I want some extra light and look outside.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's called the swan hatch. And it's a reason because there's loads of swans in the canal. And I'll be sitting here, as you can see, this is the sink, and I'll be making some dinner or breakfast or doing the dishes. And a swan will come and put its head right through that hatch and start demanding food. They are really, really, yeah.
You gotta
They're
figure
very
it out.
pretty, but they're not very nice. You don't want to mess with them. They're big and they're aggressive. But yeah, so that's yeah.
Wow, really nice. That is beautiful. I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I feel, and the way the law works here, I buy a license and I'm allowed to moor anywhere on the 2,000 miles of canal for free.
Yeah.
Up to 2 weeks. I have to move every 2 weeks.
Okay.
But now that they're closing the canal, I don't have to move because I can't.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But so yeah, and you just go up. You can be moored in the middle of a city. I could moor in the heart of London. Yeah, and
And
stayed
the
2
water
weeks.
spots are pretty readily available?
Well, you've seen, you saw the canal
Phone.
and you just tie up where you like.
Yeah.
And that's what I do. And
So is it anywhere along the canal, or are there certain areas where they have the tie-ups?
and no, anywhere. I
Well,
mean,
that's
there
right,
are,
because I did
well,
see
no, I mean, there
someone.
are small, there are little places where you can't. I mean, like you're not supposed to moor under a bridge because that'll block another boat.
All
You know,
right.
there's little things like that. But otherwise, yeah, wherever you like.
Wow. Yeah,
Um,
I did see someone, Roff, who they had, is it stakes that they put in the ground actually?
yeah, yeah. Well, there's different ways. Yeah, there's stakes, there's piling hooks, mooring chains. I've got sets of everything, so
How
that I can
about,
tie up
how
wherever.
about taxes? You gotta pay taxes of any kind?
Nope,
Nothing.
Is,
no
is,
property tax.
is he
No
big?
property tax.
And he can
I
go
mean,
anywhere.
I have to pay income tax, obviously, but no property tax.
Income
No,
tax, or what? Oh, you're still working.
yeah, but yeah, I don't pay any property tax at all.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, yeah. That's
and
something, yeah.
and we're sitting
No
here
canal
talking.
tax?
Pardon me?
No canal tax?
No, nothing. I have to buy a license once a year, and that's that. And then, I mean, all my electricity is free. It's because I have solar panels. We're talking. I use a hotspot from my phone for my internet, and all the electricity comes from solar, and so that's free. And then I buy in the. It's a bit like living in Victorian times because I have to buy bags of coal to heat
Yeah,
in the winter.
right.
So I
Yeah.
have my coal stove going, have my coal merchant, and he comes and delivers a few bags of coal. And
Does the
so,
same guy bring you the kerosene who brings you the coal?
now I don't need kerosene, but I go through a lot of coal. I go through probably about 100 pounds of coal a week.
Okay.
Um,
And that's
but
how
I
you,
mean, it gets cold up here. I mean, we get, well, in about maybe 15 to 20 degrees Fahrenheit in the winter.
oh,
It's
wow.
So it gets chilly. I mean, the canal gets frozen sometimes and you can't move. And I had 8, 10 inches of snow on the boat at one point last year. And people say, oh, don't you freeze in those boats? No, I have that little stove. It's a little coal stove that throws the heat.
Oh, yeah, you
Um,
probably can't even get near it.
no, actually, the funny thing is people come by and they say, don't you freeze in there? And I just open the door and the heat comes out. I'm sitting like in a t-shirt and it's winter and I've got the doors open to get cold air in here. And
Right.
I've woken up at night and found it was like 95 in here and just gasping and just but so yeah, you learn to make the fires just so. And then I have a about 150 gallon water tank, which I
Okay.
fill up, and that's free. There's water points along there,
Right.
and then I
Electric
have a
hot
two.
water,
Pardon me.
the hot water heater, electric from the solar?
I have several ways of doing it. When I'm moving the boat, the engine heats the water. So
Ah,
on days when I move the boat, I tie up, and you're pretty tired at that point, so you get a nice hot shower
yeah.
right after because the water's nice and hot. If
Yeah.
I stop in a town or marina where they have plugins, I can plug into shore power. Then I have an
Mm,
immersion heater, which gives me constant water. Then I also have central heating, which I can turn on, which is powered by diesel, and that also heats the water. So I have 3 ways of getting hot water.
wow.
And yeah, it's really quite civilized. And I have a nice fridge. It's all 12 volt, so I don't use much electricity. And I've got supplies. As you would know, John, in the winter time, you stock up your larder in Tamworth because you don't know when you might get snowed in. It's the
Oh,
same on
yeah.
a boat.
Seven
It's the
quarter
same on
year.
a boat. Yeah, same on a boat. You
Yeah.
don't know where you might be. I might find a really pretty spot that I want to stay at, and there might be no shops for miles. So I have whatever I want here. I don't have to worry about going anywhere. Or if the canal gets frozen, which happens, you don't have to move. I just
You know
have enough
what?
food to So
does the canal, this is probably a stupid question, does the canal connect to the ocean? Can you go out to the ocean?
yeah, in places, yes. I could if I continue down this canal to Liverpool, it comes out into the tidal Mersey, which would lead to the ocean. But you would never take a canal boat on the ocean because I mean it doesn't have it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There's no keel. It's completely flat bottom. I draw only 2 feet of water. It's for very shallow rivers and shallow. I can go on rivers and I can go on canals, but I could go to Liverpool, and people do, and uh, and there are places you could get. Yeah, tidal. I've been on tidal rivers, and you got to be really careful, really careful. I mean, it's kind of really careful, but because you can sink your boat real easy. Same as you can sink your boat in a lock really easy if you don't know what you're doing, if you're not paying attention. You can sink. You
caught on something in the water. Yeah.
Well, when you put your boat in, if you're going down a lock, you put your boat in, but you've got to make sure that it's in past a certain point, because there's a concrete thing that sticks out from the gates, and if you get your back of your boat caught on that, it'll tip over and your boat will sink. And it's called silling your boat, and that's you got to be really. It's marked. I mean, there are white lines marked in the lock chambers, and you see it. I mean, but people, you get people who rent boats that don't know what they're doing, and they're just doing it for a big party, and they get drunk, and they're all having a great time, and no one looks. Or it can happen if you're not paying attention. Someone comes up and talks to you, and you don't see that your boat is drifted back. So when you're doing the lock, you get real antisocial. You don't. Right. Someone comes up and talks to you, and you just say, "No, talk to me later. I'm doing this." Yeah. But so I mean, there's risks to it, but it's really fun. I like locks, and I like, there's something magical about you just pull up. I mean, the first day I did this, I came out in this canal, and it was this really lonely spot. It was beautiful, all these woods, and the canal was built in 1802. That one was, and I thought, can I really just stay here? And you can. You just put out the stakes. In that case, pound them in, tie up to the stakes, and I stayed there I think I stayed there about a week or 10 days, and it was beautifully quiet. And all I had a barn owl for company. I could hear him at night. And then off in the distance, I could hear this chime of this village, 14th century village church off in the distance. And I couldn't see it. It was remote. I could hear it carrying in the air. And it was just me. I didn't see another boat, didn't see another person. And, it was, and then you just pull up stakes, and then your next place you moor, you might be in the middle of a town. I've moored in a town park. It was quite funny. You feel like, this can't be right. I'm in a park where there's playgrounds and all this other stuff, and I'm sitting there moored. That's my address for the night. It's and I've moored in the heart of a city, and you can just moor anywhere. So
that's fantastic. That really opens it up. I didn't realize that. I always thought, as I was envisioning this, after because I saw your boat, that you kind of familiarized me with the idea of the narrow boat, and then I started looking on YouTube and whatnot. But somehow I had gotten the idea that you travel the canals, and then you would come to these rare segments that were maybe 2%.
You stop anywhere. Anywhere.
That's great, because you're going and you see this spectacular, picturesque view. Boom. Yeah. I'm going to stop right.
Exactly. Yep. I was thinking, I better it's about 9 o'clock here. We've been on for a bit of a while. And I think maybe, John, you might like a bit of a rest from listening to
a little sleepy.
Yeah.
Well, yes, I was seeing that. I was thinking you might.
This has been amazing. I see it's still very there. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's been wonderful talking to you. But
I haven't enjoyed a talk like this since I met him.
Well, I've enjoyed it a lot too, John. And let's keep in touch.
Yeah,
okay?
let's do it. Yeah,
yes.
for sure. Yes. Absolutely. We'll send you more videos and pictures and do
Yes,
this-
please. And let's keep it. I'm so glad to have connected up with you, John.
Me with
it's-
you.
It's
took
been
me
it's,
back.
it's
You made me a
wonderful.
young man again.
Well, you've taken me. Well, you've made me a kid again.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll give you some other good news,
Yeah,
Rob.
you're back to being in your 30s, and I'm back to being a
Yeah, right.
teenager.
And also in line with that is that John is an unbelievable survivor because he had prostate cancer, and
Wow.
a number of years ago, he actually went. By the time I had met John, he had already been through this. He went and literally it was metastasized through his entire body and all of his bones. If you looked at him on an X-ray, he was
Black.
completely black. Now,
3 days to live. I'd been in my brain. It was going up.
yeah. Now,
So now,
go ahead, tell the story.
so a few weeks ago, they discovered a spot of cancer on my
Oh,
back.
hold on. Tell the story first about how
Oh.
they got rid of all that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, he gave-
Nowitzki or whatever his name was.
Well, I got over to the Hitchcock Hospital. You remember that? Hearing
Oh
about
yeah, gosh, yeah. Mary
Yeah.
Hitchcock Hospital. Yeah.
with the Dr. Nowitzki. And before I left the Laconia Hospital, my surgeon, who was a woman, she said, "You're going to have an MRI before you go." And then she came back, and I was waiting to go home with my friend. She pointed at my friend. She said, "I want you to take him to Hitchcock now." I got over there. Dr. Nowitzki came in. I was sitting in his office, and he had a manila envelope, and he said, edgewise, he said, "You want to see picture?" He's a Russian guy.
Mm.
I said, "I don't know why not." He said, "Some people don't want to see picture." And I was pretty sick. I said, "Doc, it is what it is."
Yeah.
And he said, "You're strong." He pulled that picture out, and you wouldn't believe it. I was black from here to the bottom. Another
Really?
3 days it would have been in my brain, and that's all it could have done. But he said, "We bring it down. We bring it down. We bring it down." He put me on abiraterone, which I'm still on, a very powerful cancer medication.
Mm.
And if I was paying for it, it would cost me $1,100 a month to stuff.
Oh,
Yeah. So, and then,
Wiped it out. Basically
yeah.
gone from his bones. Then he
wonderful.
Yeah.
fully cancer free. And then what was it? About a month or two ago, they found a spot somewhere on his
On my back. So they want me to go to this radiation treatment over in Stamford, Maine. And go over there for 3 times. Once you get a big MRI, so you do that. I guess it's like an MRI, PET scan. And they
Yeah.
can exactly where it is got to be treated. Then I took 2 trips over there for radiation. I hit that spot. And then I have a Dr. Tretter, and I see him like yesterday. I was with my daughter, like he and I are now talking to him.
Yeah.
Dr. Tretter, he's about the top oncologist in the state of New Hampshire anyway. He said, "John, how you feeling?" And I said, "I'm feeling great." He said, "Well, you should be." He said, "You're cancer free." Whoa,
Wonderful. You are a true survivor, John.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
A true survivor.
So we're gonna
Yeah.
have many more of these phone calls and
Well, I'm looking forward to them. I am
Yeah.
looking forward to them.
yeah, thanks so
This
much
is like-
for this, Roff. This has been really so much
Well,
fun.
it's been lovely. I mean, I'm sitting here in the interior of my boat, which I designed to look like New Hampshire, and I'm sitting here talking with John Hidden. I mean, you know, it's you know,
It's like a miracle
yeah, it is.
for
Well,
my
look,
youth now.
thank you so much for
Yeah.
giving me your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
It has been wonderful, and
Yeah.
I'll let you get some sleep, and I'm going to make myself a late dinner.
Great.
And,
All right.
Awesome. Stay
We'll
well.
see
you.
Stay in touch. We'll
We'll
talk
do
soon.
this again, I hope.
oh, absolutely, absolutely,
We'll
John.
get some more material. Believe me, he and I together, we'll get more
We'll work it
material.
up, yeah.
I'm
Oh,
looking
yeah.
forward to it already.
He asked me more damn questions than a kid, but that's how you learn.
That's how you learn. Look, thank you
Rob,
very much, and you have a good
proud of you.
afternoon now.
All right.
Take care.
Okay.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
So now
Oh, he stepped
I'll disconnect the video for you.
Okay,
And
all
then
right.
this is all recorded, so we can watch it at any time. So
it is?
yeah, oh yeah. So Roff can see it, we can see it. So I'll
We-
just
we have something.
stop that.
Oh, he's seen the movie.